All right, well, welcome to the Port Orchard City Council Finance Committee meeting for October 15th, 2024. I'm council member and chair Mark Trenary. We have council member John Morrissey and council member Ted Chang with us, as well as the mayor and city director of finance, Noah Crocker. So let's get started with our agenda.
It's like in 2 weeks.
We'll get started and allow Noah to get it going.
Okay, so I'll start with the agenda for the finance committee. So we'll briefly, again, we have action-packed meeting, so I'm just gonna briefly go over sales tax and REIT. We have not completed the monthly budget report yet, so that'll be kind of forthcoming still. And then we'll jump into the whole budget conversation. We'll spend most of the time talking about budget. So real quickly, we have our latest sales tax numbers at the top here. You'll see for September, we collected $704,000, which is about 6% growth over September of 2023. So year to date, we've actually collected about 5% through September compared to 2023. So that's real growth, 5%. We always have the budget figures just to keep some perspective. We're 18% ahead of budget, but this is the value I really track. It's real growth. We've collected almost 96% of our biennial budget. So next 2-3 months, we'll have our full budget collected. So that's fantastic. So good. That was a good month for us and sales tax growth.
Good to see it popping back up.
Important here, this 958,000 over here, we have already captured this and incorporated into the budget. It's well, we haven't spent it yet, but it's part of this, it's part of balancing this budget. So it's, while that looks great, we've incorporated those additional dollars into this budget.
Can't spend until we approve.
I was thinking about something completely off subject and not to put us back further. I think this is a great understanding for us as a group on our revenue. Is there something high level like this that we can look at to see where we're at in expenditures in a similar format? Right, to see where we're budgeted and find out where we have extra money.
It wouldn't be simple like this because there's just so many departments.
Well, that's why I'm trying to get to a super high level. Like, I know historically, maybe not this year, we've always been understaffed in the police department, but yet we budget for it. So there are dollars in there that are able to be utilized.
Correct.
That we better be able to see that and deploy it if we had a report like that for expense.
So we do give you that report. That's in the monthly budget report, and it breaks it down by department.
It does.
Budget and activity.
I was looking more because this is like
So this is
most everything in one
Yeah,
pager.
Yeah, this is one specific GL.
Okay,
And in that report, like the police department probably has 200 GLs.
correct.
Right, so there's no way to represent
Break
every
that
single
down.
line.
Okay.
So we,
They're
can
just
look
one,
at
they're
what's
just
in the-
one department. So
yeah, I can give you the GL budget activity.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be, probably 5 pages of.
Yeah, no, I was looking to see if there's something that condensed it onto a one pager more like this.
We can keep looking at the budget report and see if there's something else, a different way to toggle it.
Yeah, I know our expenses are way more diversified than our income, so that's part of the issue, but was just thinking, how can I get something a little more high level like this?
Yeah, and again, the budget report does give you the fund overall.
It does,
format,
it
And then
does.
by department.
It's just a lot more detail, so.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
A lot of moving parts.
So then on the REIT, we actually have, not great month. That it was 26% less than September, but REIT is a variable revenue source for us. That's why we, in the budget, you'll see we plan very conservatively when we budget REIT revenues. Overall, for the biennium, we're doing well. It's above our biennial budget, so that's good. Although you see here year to date, we're tracking less than 2023. So not bad, not good. It's just kind of it's good from a budget perspective in that we've met our biennial budget goals, so we're safe there.
Housing slowing down just a
It
little
just
bit.
gives you an indication of kind of what's happening.
So now, how much have we collected for the first 9 months in REIT?
1.4 million.
Okay.
Here. Yep.
And so we're hoping we get to 1.6, or that's
Correct.
what we're,
Yep.
yes, okay.
Yep.
So we're close.
We're close. Yeah. I would suspect we'll hit that. I mean,
Yes, I would eventually.
right.
Something catastrophic would have to hit for us.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to have a big swing.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Okay, so now we can move on. There will be a revenue and sources presentation tonight, again, as the mayor kind of talked briefly. So by law, we're required to do a revenue and sources presentation with property tax information, and then hold a public hearing. And then after the public hearing, then we are able to adopt the new property taxes. So we'll do the full revenue presentation tonight at the work study. I only want to play on one slide with this group, because I don't think you need to hear it again. It's pretty straightforward. It's just property taxes, how much we're able to levy in 2025. And again, we get this data from the county treasurer, so there's not much we do with this other than represent it and put it back out so everyone can understand it. But I did want to point out this slide here. This will come up tonight several different ways. Just a picture of our overall general fund revenue. And this is in the budget, so you can see that this will actually be in our 25-26 budget. In total, we're going to budget $35 million in revenue for our general fund. And that's going to be about 5% increase, 5.5% increase compared to our prior biennial budget. For tax revenue specifically, it's about a 12% increase. So sales tax, the increase is about 4.6%. Property taxes will represent 15%. Again, don't confuse that with an increase of 15%.
Through construction.
This is due to construction, yeah. Sometimes people get confused. That's not how that works. And then other taxes, we're estimating will have an increase of 26%. So I just want to show this to show you can see overall for the biennium, we're growing our revenues by 5%, our tax revenue collection by 12%.
What other taxes, why are such a large?
We will get into that.
You will, okay.
Yes. Then we can get into it now, but I think you
Okay.
want me to hear it twice.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
As long as you can cover it tonight, because I know.
He's got an entire PowerPoint that he goes through. And so there's another question, you're gonna get the entire PowerPoint tonight, then we hold a public hearing next week. Typically, Noah pares that presentation down the second time and doesn't give a 20-minute presentation, he gives a 10-minute presentation, because he gave the 20-minute version the week before, but we do have, we touch it twice before you guys adopt it. So is everybody comfortable with a
What's a good chunk of?
lesser, less detail of the second time?
Yes.
PFD
Yeah.
and
Yeah, so I'll cover that again tonight.
You will, okay.
Yeah,
these are
yeah.
just the ones that are big for sure.
Yeah, the intergovernmental change is big.
I already had
That's all
questions on.
grant revenue. So we had, DCB got planning grant money, we had, DNR money for derelict vessels. All the grant money that we did receive in 2024, we don't necessarily have applications nor have reported that money now, so you see that we're about significantly.
PFD
Also-
money that we're not expecting to do anything with, would that fall in the same category?
No, I think we've spent most of the PFD money at this point.
That are
for the
eligible.
project. Oh, yeah, this is other TIB money for transportation and planning and.
We've got a grant for the Safe Routes to School for Sydney Glen.
Sydney, no.
That's a chunk of that.
I
That's
do
a
have one
$1 million.
question. And it may not be answered here, which is okay, but you talk about the revenue from utilities. So there's utilities, which I guess means sewer and water, because then you break out the PS for the gas. Do we have a breakout for our utilities of sewer and water somewhere? It's not in the presentation, but somewhere else probably.
Try asking them again.
Okay,
We do have, so we have our utility funds, 411, which is our water utility fund has revenue. in it.
So there's operations and capital to our enterprise fund. And then we have utility taxes that are charged on all of the utilities, which go into the general fund. Okay, and that is sewer, water, storm,
okay.
Cascade Gas,
Okay.
PSC,
Yeah, that's-
all of those have
Yeah.
utility
No,
taxes.
The
And that's,
table I'm talking about says utilities, but it also has separately gas and PSC. And the non-city utilities. I'm just wondering for the line that says utilities, and we'll come to it or outline it later. If we have a breakdown of like sewer, water and storm.
they're in the budget.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's.
For the
on that
operation-
table, It just says utilities.
What-
So I'm wondering what.
I think you're referring to utility taxes,
Yeah.
which are different than the operational funds of our
Okay.
sewer, of our
Yeah,
storm. And
was it
Yes.
revenue though?
yes, it
Yeah.
is. That's a utility
So I never saw it
taxes,
somewhere.
and that goes into the general fund.
Is that your question, Fred? Where to see
I
the,
just wanted to see the breakdown of our utilities between water and sewer. I'll get back to you later, because
Okay.
it's not in this.
He's probably trying to do like I am and jumping
Yeah.
ahead, because I want
Okay.
to, questions about that, but
No, I'll follow
Yeah.
up later.
I'm trying not to. Sorry.
We'll make notes and then we'll come back to it.
Yeah, no,
And then we can come
I
back
know
to
it's
it.
still gonna, when you cover the budget.
Okay. So I'll move on to, and I just want to refresh everybody with the calendar, and we're on time as far as our normal calendar process. We delivered, the preliminary budget and emailed that out, first of October. We have our finance committee tonight, right now, study session tonight. And depending on how that goes, we may not need the 18th, or we may need additional follow-up depending on what the finance committee decides. Again, next Tuesday, the 22nd, is when we'll hold a public hearing for property taxes, and then we'll adopt the property taxes. I'm also preparing any additional budget presentations that would go before that. So kind of depending on how and what we get through tonight, I'll roll probably capital, suspecting, I'll roll capital to that meeting as a presentation and discussion. Then from there, we'll have a second public hearing on November 12th. Because by that point, we've covered the entire budget, we've talked about it. We've identified anything additional to be incorporated. So we'll hold a second public hearing, perhaps present any changes from the mayor's budget or the preliminary budget. And I have a couple of kind of house cleaning things that we've identified after the fact, some more information as we continue on this budget process. And so I'll put those in and propose those. Here's some additional changes that we would make to the final. And then the idea being have a work study session on the 19th where it's just open. We don't necessarily have to talk budget if we are feeling comfortable, and then adopt it at 26th. Okay, so the next part is we're going to the mayor's highlights, and you guys can hear this twice.
We're gonna hear this presentation now and
Oh.
tonight.
And since we're gonna use the books, you can open the first page, and go to, sorry, I should have said this earlier. So you have the tabs. Yep, tab 2 is the schedule, tab 2 is the mayor's.
And I'm not gonna go through this line item, I'm gonna hit the highlights that I think you guys would feel are important, but if there's something I don't get and you want more detail on that, go ahead. Don't hesitate to ask. It's also important to remember, these are biennial numbers. In this is a biennial budget, so these are 2 years worth of expenses in here. So I think the first one, you're looking at legal services at $1.3 million. That's a staggering number. But so what that encompasses is about 335,000 of that is our general counsel, our land use attorney, our HR, our human resources attorney, which is a separate firm than Charlie's, and also our civil service commission has their own counsel. And they aren't used a lot, but they were used pretty heavily this past year when we had an appeal to our process. So so we need budget dollars just in case a scenario like that happens.
Can I just pause you there? I just want to point out one thing before you get too far down that road. I just want to highlight the first 3, which are financial policies. So
Yeah.
Again, this document is a summary of the 25-26 budget and the highlights. And we like to, again, focus on the financial policies that this budget achieves our working capital policy targets by the end of the biennium and all throughout. It hits our our stabilization policy targets. And in the last biennium, the council made efforts to pre-fund debt service. And so this completes that effort to get 1 year of debt service payments for each of our obligations into those funds. So that's a big win by the end of the biennium.
Other than one brand new loan that we just booked, and I'll talk about it in here, that we didn't fund it. It's $100,000, and the water utility just didn't have quite enough cash in it. So.
And the other thing, Mayor, I want to point out is that in the back of this book, John, so here on tab 5, this is the preliminary budget, okay, or department expenses. And so what you'll see is first a cover page that has the summary of 25-26, and then the next page, the next section should be a detail by fiscal year. So you can see 25 broken down for a few pages.
This is the one that's in tonight's deck.
Correct.
Yes.
And then you'll see the 26. And I only highlight that because as the mayor was talking about election services, he was kind of rattling off the different pieces of that. If you were to turn to your page, and I'll find it here. Oh, you found it already?
90 and 20.
No.
Page 3 or page 5 is where I was gonna go, because I actually have the detail breakdown in the middle. Yep, right up there. Am I seeing it right?
The voter registration
Right below it.
or civil service.
Yep, there you go. So you can see all the pieces of the detail that make up the larger number.
Yeah.
So the mayor was sharing with you, like, here's the different pieces of it. Again, it's all provided. We're trying to be transparent, make sure you guys can follow along. But with the
And-
detail, the sense of it.
And the document I'm talking to, I'm just trying to get the large dollar amounts. And so finish that discussion on the legal services. We spent another $142,000 on prosecution services and another $160,000 in public defense. We've got $170,000.
Once again, so, President, you guys have a preliminary budget book. This is what was published on October 1st, okay?
And this is what.
Yeah, again, the real difference is that this is the complete by GL included revenues. So this may be, Fred, where you saw that utility tax revenue come in general fund. Where the one that we're with here tonight is really just focused on department expenses for the operating fund mostly.
Okay, so also you'll see the housing services, $170,000. That's our $1,406. And so we're programming $170,000. Our goal is by the first quarter to have a contract with KCR for probably the lion's share of these funds. I'm also in discussions with Housing Kitsap on a program for your move-in deposits. One-time expenses related to the low-income housing there on Lippert. They've got Housing Kitsap has a property there, so we'll see.
For 4 years though, the 170? Isn't it like,
It's 2 years, this is the biennial number,
I thought it was only 40,000 a year.
correct, but we've been accumulating it. and
Okay, so it's 4 years.
We've got,
Okay.
a large chunk of money sitting in there that we'd like to spend, provided we can find a provider to spend it for us.
Yeah, because I saw 40 somewhere else. Okay.
We
And LTAC?
jump and there's just we're 100 a year, just like we've historically done, we've budgeted in there.
Okay.
If we drop down to IT, the 562, that's our software and subscriptions. Primarily, we've got Office 365 for 100 employees. We've got maintenance service contracts from everything from our servers and other pieces of software. So those are all housed in the IT budget there. The police department, there's a large increase to the prisoner care and custody. That's that 840,000 represents a 20% increase over the prior budget. But that's the number that they've increased the bed jail days up at the jail. In community development, that first line, building consultants, 450,000 there is a big number, but we are defunding. We'll see in the items that are being not funded, over $300,000 for an employee, the position that we haven't been able to fill in the building department. And so we're going to plug this into consultant services. And part of the thought process is if truly the housing does slow down, it's easier to manage that consultant contract versus laying an employee off. And we haven't been able to attract an employee in this position for nearly 2 years. So
That's the building inspector.
so yeah, I'll get to that sheet in a moment, but I'm just telling you that this number is larger because I'm grabbing dollars from a defunding and a staff position. That 212 for building and derelict building and vessels, that's really status quo number from prior budgets. And when it comes to provided the legislature funds the bucket of dollars, sometimes we expend those dollars and seek reimbursement from the state, and provided there's money there. Regardless, we do these activities and hope that we can get reimbursed from the state. The 150,000 is right now we're under design for the Orchard Street Plaza and the shoreline work. And this is just that, the continuation of that contract to finish up that design for the Orchard Street plaza and shoreline work. When we drop down to Public Works, that first line, when we discovered where some of our water intrusion was, it wasn't in the contract to excavate all of the planters around City Hall. I didn't want to pay the contractor to landscape City Hall. So all they're going to do is solve our water intrusion and drainage problems, and then I'm gonna have our Public Works crew do the landscaping next spring around City Hall. So that's what that number represents. I'm not gonna, jumping down, it says storm tree canopy maintenance, and about 2/3 of that is an element. Actually, this is all a result of our new stormwater permit. About 2/3 of it is the mapping software. I don't know if you guys remember them talking about that. We have to map our tree canopy in the city,
Is that
and
through our GIS?
I don't know. I believe it's a consultant contract. It'll get housed somewhere. So we have to map our tree canopy, and then there's about $10,000 to put trees in after we do the mapping exercise.
Is that on city land only, or is that all trees in the city?
I don't know, Fred. I know it's an element of our stormwater.
It's kind of cool though, because I think Seattle has like this tree inventory, you can call it up on your phone. I don't know if this is similar. but-
Yeah, I just know this is one of the, yeah,
It's kind of cool though.
well, it's one of the requirements of our new storm permit.
I don't know the taxpayers.
Yeah, but it is what it is, and it's a requirement of our storm permit, and so we're getting out in front of it, mapping it, and then we've got some dollars to plant trees when we identify the deficiencies, so.
If they're.
Yeah, we still plant trees, and, and so we'll have dollars to plant trees.
And I believe the software does interface with the GIS, it's not the GIS software, ArcGIS is own, so this is an additional package to do some additional. satellite.
Yeah, is that why it's all working together? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. The next one, that 95,000, that storm SMAP, and that is a stormwater action plan that we need to update periodically. We have to do a plan. And submit it to ecology, and unfortunately, that's the cost to update that plan and hire a consultant to do that body of work, satisfy ecology. Next one underneath that, 300,000 for I&I elimination. So we have a lot of, in particular in the older part of the city, water intrusion in our storm system, the groundwater coming into it, and so we're gonna. There's a new employee in our, and so at the end of we are probably at current flows and growth rates, 10 years out, we're gonna need to look at upsizing the line that goes from Marina Pump Station out to Annapolis. By eliminating, so right now we believe we're processing a lot of groundwater in the sewer system. And so we can kick that can farther down the road if we can get the water that shouldn't be groundwater, that shouldn't be in the sewer pipes out of it. So we're going to be doing TV work, and then it's whether it's replacing vaults or it's slip line. There's processes where we can slip line. A lot of these older lines aren't ductile iron, they're concrete bell ends, and they aren't tight fitting. So when the water level comes up, we get water coming into the storm system. So when heavy rains come, all of a sudden our sewer activity goes way up, and we know that some of this is coming from groundwater. So we put some money in the budget and adding an employee to get out in front of this and to try to get some of this groundwater out of our sewer system. I think everybody knows what the sewer, that's our portion of the cost of the sewer plant, and then our liability insurance for 2 years, about $1 million a year for insurance. Going on to the next page, the last couple of budgets, we put about $1 million into street preservation and maintenance. We got darn near there. We got to 950,000. Public Works asked for considerably more than another 800 on top of that, but we couldn't couldn't find it, to make that happen. The last one on that list, 150 versus street telemetrics, and that is a new cabinet and probably optical sensors for the traffic light at Sydney and Tremont. It's getting towards the end of its life. The loops have failed in the ground, and in today's world, you don't necessarily use loops. So we're gonna we put the dollars in this budget to update that traffic cabinet and the controls associated with it. I'm not gonna dive deep into the capital because Noah has, these are lump sum numbers and Noah has an entire presentation on that. What I do want to assure you is on in that top line for parks and facilities and capital projects. Within that $3 million, there are some design dollars to award a design to segment, to do the phased approach on the pathway, the pedestrian pathway. There's dollars to acquire the tidelands, because if we're successful in turning it into segments, we're only going to do from West Bay to Mitchell Point, as we've been discussing. And then there's also dollars in this budget to remove the homes, provided we get approval to bank that mitigation. That's the first step in there. This budget puts dollars in to take those steps for when we get those approvals. The next section is just the ER and R fund, which is thus is replacing vehicles, and we've been saving to replace those vehicles. And then we've got down at the bottom there, it says 2024 rebudgets, and that's really, these are vehicles that were in the current budget. We've ordered these vehicles, but we haven't taken possession of them. We don't pay for them till they're delivered. And so these vehicles are, been ordered. We just haven't taken delivery of them yet. And so we need to rebudget those.
But you don't take that out of the revenue.
Good follow-up question.
So, I mean, we took revenue in for this budget and had expenses for this budget.
We're just carrying it forward.
Okay.
And that's what, but we have to budget it again and show it.
Yeah, and it's important to me to think about the ER&R funds. These are the capital purchases.
So it's coming out, it's not coming out here.
Yeah, and so the
No.
revenue going to fund, all right,
That's key, that's what I was
Yeah.
missing, I think,
So just out of curiosity, since this is equipment, we budgeted for a 24, we don't get it till 25. Are we getting the current models available, or are we getting the 24 models?
I can't speak to that, but
depends. I mean, a couple of years we've had them actually cancel the year, so when we get the current year, I believe for some of these don't get brand new models every year, like the
350 trucks.
350 trucks, right? The big dump trucks, the first thing that.
so the rub is though, if they cancel it and they give us a 25, we get the 25's price.
Yeah.
Versus the one that we ordered and they ran out of 24s and we didn't get one. But so then we end up coming to you guys and saying, okay, well, we budgeted this much, but this thing is costing 5,000 more now. But any of these vehicles will likely coming before you guys anyway, because the purchases are over 35,000.
While we're on it, there seem to be 4 or 5. I happen to be up at Farrell Gas, up at the industrial park over the weekend, and we have a bunch of vehicles, looks like police vehicles ready to be surplus.
Go down in the yard.
Yeah. That's that money sitting there that could be working for us if it was gone, right?
We don't get hardly anything for those cars,
Serious?
Yeah.
a few $1,000s.
You're welcome. Actually, can you get on it? You can see govdeals.com is where we post it.
We
Alongside entities.
It's
Yeah,
not.
okay.
doesn't
No,
move-
really?
doesn't move
Okay.
the
We
needle.
do put money back.
Sure, yeah, no, but that's working money, right, as a business owner. Money that could be invested and be making more money, so.
Quickly, I'll run through new department requests. These are requested and funded. And so there was we've got a plans examiner, let's see, reduce.
So this is part of the new request.
Yeah.
So the first couple ones with DCD,
That one, what is going on with that one?
Well, so that's the plans examined, their position that we're eliminating.
That's-
And we're
okay.
funding it with the consultants.
I'm gonna leave this alone because I've got detailed notes.
It seems to match this one.
Correct.
It should, it
Yeah,
should.
so I'm not gonna go in because I've got dollars and detailed notes. So the only other, when we've got a number of things on the mid-year review list. I was in a meeting earlier today. And possibly the finance committee could recommend adding this or sometime during this budget process. We've got the Sydney South. Excuse me, the Sydney non-motorized project in front of Sydney Glen. Okay, and we've got I don't know, $1.2 million in a grant to do that work, and we've got about a $500,000 match to it, okay? But that only does the sidewalks and the bike lanes, okay? Well, our proposal is going to be to also, just like we did over there by Cedar Heights, when it's all done, we want to pave that section of road from Berry Lake to not all the way to Sedgwick, and only go to Ruby Creek. No, to just past that to Ruby Creek. So that culvert crossing is kind of where our choke point is. Until we replace that with a bridge there, we can't widen the road. So this project will stop pretty much at the apartments, but I believe we will pave all the way to at least to Ruby Creek.
But don't we have that housing development coming in across the road?
Across the street from
the apartments?
Yeah, that one's stalled and they didn't pull their permits. But there is a project plan for there, the townhomes across the street. And sewer and things have been stubbed out for that. But so we're planning on paving the street, part of this project, paving the street, which they've got pavement dollars to do that with. Something that I brought to Noah's attention here about an hour ago. Just like we did in front of Cedar Heights, we're building a lift station at Ruby Creek. And so when we're doing the street work, we've been laying pipes in the ground. And so that's not in this budget, and there is money in the sewer capital fund to pay for it, and it's around $1 million. To take that from Berry Lake down just past the Ruby Creek there. So that when that sewer lift station gets constructed, all the pipes in the ground and we're not cutting up the street we just paved. So just making you aware that we should be adding some sewer dollars into there to connect so that we've got, we already did from Berry Lake up past Cedar Heights.
Right.
So that happened with this project, it's part of it, so we need to continue that sewer pipe, and there was just a disconnect from the public works to finance in this process. A lot of balls.
So we've got current tie in on the current line to the
We got
projected process building across the street from the Haven.
that's separate. Okay, so this line that's gonna go from the Ruby Creek lift station to the Cedar Heights lift station is a force main. Okay,
Right.
and we laid a force main from Berry Lake, when we did the Safe Routes to School project in front of the middle school, from Berry Lake to the sewer lift station got done. Okay, what you're talking about, there's a separate lift station at the Haven Apartments. And there's a gravity line that's been stubbed out on the other side of the street for the townhomes. That sewer goes across the street into this lift station over here. This pipe we're laying is for the Ruby Creek development, Doug Strobuck's, McCormick. What's
So it's
that
a
called?
completely separate line. from what we're
Completely
doing,
separate
What
line
we've already got in the
to
ground.
provide the sewer for that entire basin at Sedgwick and Sydney.
I believe it was what Nick was talking to us about in the last meeting in the meeting.
It was,
Yeah.
it's
That
the,
there's Basin 7 and
Yeah.
yes, yes, yeah.
exactly, it is exact, this is the pipe. If we build the sewer lift station and we don't have this pipe, then the sewer lift station doesn't work. And we're gonna rebuild this street, we wanna put the pipe in the ground, so. Anyway, so if everybody's comfortable with that, of
I'm
adding,
gonna go all the way to Haven. I wouldn't even go all the way to Centric. And that way we're just.
the sewer line does go farther.
I know it does, but if we're talking
I saw,
the road and the sidewalks,
we will pay, we'll pay wherever we cut.
Okay.
But as far as the bike lanes and the sidewalks, they have to stop at Ruby Creek because I don't have enough road width.
Yeah, that's a new bridge.
It's a bridge.
Oh.
That's not in this project.
Yeah.
didn't the bridge right before Ruby Creek?
No, the bridge is,
The bridge will be.
it is.
Oh, okay, okay,
The
so that's the
bridge is-
bridge just past the Haven,
Yes.
right there before you get to
Yeah,
what I'm
it's-
calling Ruby Creek, which is the full empty lot.
Ruby Creek
But then
is
you're
the
talking the actual creek.
the actual creek.
I'm talking the whole area.
Yeah,
not
yes,
that.
okay, so, sorry, yes. There's this,
But I still,
there's the
if
sub
we're gonna go all
area,
the way there, not that much further past.
so I know, yeah, I know we're bringing the sewer line down so that it'll
And
connect,
you're just, yeah.
so.
Dylan, wearing my business hat, right? That's business is gonna have
We,
construction more than once, if we can do it all in one fell swoop.
we're doing
But
this,
can we
we're
pay
doing
for
the
all?
sewer line,
That's.
That's,
Or
Yeah.
is there
could
something
developer
else
pay
we
for it?
could say
Yeah,
otherwise?
yeah, a bridge is very expensive, so we're not doing a bridge project at this point. So. But we're
Are we
doing,
gonna be required to do that bridge
someday,
due to salmon running? Okay.
someday,
Some
Yeah.
point.
yeah, it's in our
Not
capital
gonna get
plan. too.
cheaper,
It's not, but it's.
not to steal somebody else's words, but
But it also comes out of it, so. Comes out of the storm fund, which we've just recently passed capital facilities charges, and it's, anyway, it's a. And it will have long permitting times beyond what we have in grant funds, so.
just making sure it was a discussion.
So anyway, I just want to bring that to your attention, and does anybody object to adding that in as a finance committee's recommendation to add that sewer line? In, okay.
Tear up the street, I'd rather do it
Yeah,
once.
do it one time.
Okay.
Get it done.
All right, so now let's go to the things that did get funded, which is gonna be this document here that says personnel request summary. So actually, this is the personnel, it's what got funded, what didn't get funded. So I know this is, so the very first one there is the 318,000, is that plans examiner position that we funded. Remember that?
should be, one second. That one should be right behind the.
Document looks like this, Red has it there. It's
Where did you find this?
There you go.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so we're looking.
Yeah, I got it.
Got it.
So you flip the page? We're working with the.
Personnel request first.
Is
The
it
portrait
back
page, the portrait page, not the landscape.
Yeah, the portrait page, it looks.
Yeah.
You're on,
You got it.
you got it, okay,
that's it.
all right, yours just looks different. Okay, so remember we talked about funding that consultant contract for 400,000. 318,000 is coming from, this is a negative number, and we're defunding the plans examiner position.
We had a position funded at 318,000.
2 years.
2 years.
To your budget.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's gonna answer some questions for tonight too.
Okay. And then we also have the manager in DCD, Ellen is retiring at the end of the year. So we are in a couple of cases here funding a training period. So we're trying to hire somebody ahead of her getting out the door. It's probably an internal promotion. And then we also have a training period that's some overlap from that person that's likely gonna get promoted. So this 76,000 represents, and Ellen has been here since the beginning of time. And we got one of two choices. She's gonna basically be gone the latter part of the year because she's got that much leave. And so we either write her a check for it or she takes the leave. And either way, we need to pay somebody to do work. You gotta pay somebody to do the work, that's right. We've been talking about parking enforcement on Saturdays. And that next line item, that adds 8 hours to each one of those employees. And in the summertime, that will largely get used up for Saturday parking enforcement. And our parking enforcement program was really created to combat parking abuse around the county campus and in our downtown with commuters parking and taking off, to the day for the day in Seattle. As our city has grown, we're getting more and more complaints about parking out in residential areas. And we just don't have the capacity right now to deal with that. So part of this, adding those hours, it will deal with our Saturday parking enforcement, and it'll also give us some capacity to expand parking enforcement, you know, as we get complaints and investigating complaints in other parts of the city. The next line is so we have an assistant planner.
Can we bring some information this evening, just preemptive?
Yeah, what's
Sure, what's the question?
What type of infractions, how many, those types of things for parking enforcement?
Parking enforcement doesn't make us,
I grabbed that, right? So
Yeah.
that's why like any type of
the revenue. the
color
revenue-
you can give us.
Yeah, the
in
revenue-
any
the
way,
revenue
whether it's
is-
revenue or just how many complaints we get or
Nick-
something
Nick-
that
Nick
helps.
could speak potentially just complaints. If not, he can get you that information. The revenue side of it is pretty insignificant.
I would imagine so, that's why
And it's really not about a revenue, it's about,
I'd rather see a parks employee than.
yeah, but she's changing behavior.
I will sometimes hear it, but I've never. not
Yeah,
found it
well,
on
Nick,
the spot,
Nick can
right?
speak to what the frequency and.
I have a question mark, because I'm not sure that Saturday parking enforcement is a priority.
That's what I'm saying too, like, I'd rather have a
Yeah.
parks employee for that cost, right, but,
Yeah.
that's why I just bring some color for that, I think.
Okay. I know that it's something that the ports, been
Supportive of,
really-
yeah,
it's
yeah.
supportive of, and the downtown merchants
I
are really spun up, and it's,
hear it from them, but then I also will tell them, I've never not been in a place to park,
on
right?
Saturday, have you been down there on Saturday?
Yeah, well, there's.
Okay, I
Do I have to do a lap maybe once? Yep.
Yeah.
Try parking at the mall.
Park up
Yeah.
walk down.
I just walked down, but.
Yeah.
But I do see it.
It's definitely more full, but again,
Part of it is I'm trying to also, the part, I wanna do some, I'm trying to support. We're at odds over some maintenance of the landscaping area down there on the waterfront, and the port wants something in exchange for that. And I believe I can trade Saturday parking enforcement for that landscape maintenance. Down there, so, but I will have Nick be
Yeah. just
try to be prepared. That's why they're there tonight.
Yeah.
So the next one, the DCD permit tech, excuse me, associate assistant to associate planner. And so we've got this instance, and we've got one in the engineering department. So we hire somebody as an assistant planner. They get additional certifications, you know, and take, you know, and in the case of the engineers, they pass an exam. They're worth more in the job market, and if we don't promote them to the next level, we're at risk of losing them to somebody else. So we need it. So that's for the biennium, $27,000 for that promotion. This next one is just once again the deck shuffle and the deck chairs and overlap is related to that retirement. This is one of the two new positions that did get funded in this budget. One, the stormwater position, which is an element required, additional activities required with our storm permit. And then the sewer person, and we'll talk a little bit about the activities that we're gonna do in the sewer utility. At the retreat, you guys talked about increasing the number of summer hires. Historically, we've had 4. This last summer, we hired additional 2, so we had 6, and this budget, we have 6 again. So what we had this summer, other than our mowing activity, which was all done manually because our mower, you can see it's in the equipment that we was weed eaters and chainsaws, so we should be a little better in our roadside maintenance this next year, because we'll have a new piece of equipment. But you know, pretty much status quo in our parks with the number of employees that we have. Things that that are in the mid biennial review. Our finance, you know, we've grown the city, we've added employees in virtually every department. We haven't added anybody to our finance department in a number of years, other than last one I think was Gretchen with the ENR fund. So it's been a number of
So
years.
when you say split, what funds are paying for that?
Because the accounting staff and myself, it's split between general, sewer, storm. So it's split between all funds,
Okay.
depending on the work that they're doing.
What percentage is general fund, like 25%?
I can't speak to that. No. So it's split.
So we cost allocate, you know, those employees that serve for all, and this is a cost allocate position, so we split amongst the general, street, water, sewer, storm, pretty much the operating funds. I don't know if it's an even split, I can look into that.
Okay, just curious, like, yeah,
Yeah.
for,
To back up one, can you bring some detail into how many hours any of those seasonal workers worked? Of the 6 that we had last year?
It's a,
This is at 26 weeks of funding?
1040.
You know,
to be honest, the
that seems high.
the six were, more than 6, because not all of them work out. And, we have a pot of dollars and we start in the spring and it runs through the fall. And we utilize those dollars. And so.
I'd just
I'll
be
see- I'll see.
curious, because
Yeah.
I have intimate knowledge, right, that it wasn't at that dollar amount, so.
Yes, but there's a lot more than just their salary and their cost.
Sure, sure.
But the number of hours seems a little, it seems like half a year.
It is half a year, so I did the math, right, that's
So like,
Yeah,
26
it's
weeks.
just, that's the maximum we can allow someone to be seasonal 6 months.
Yeah.
Now, most seasonal don't work for a full 6 months.
Yeah.
Sure.
You guys seasonal work for
3 months.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I'm trying to say, like,
Yeah.
even if it's budgeted, it
Here's
wasn't
what we,
my understanding that we were hiring people from March to October for seasonal, so.
it's about April when things start growing, so
Yeah.
we might get one for 3 months and another one for, I mean, we're cobbling bodies together to get about 6 months worth of work out of 6 people, 6 FTE. But it could be 8 or 10 people that we cycle, because the college kids are here for 2.5 months if we're
Yeah.
lucky.
And I'll see if I can get some data on general hours.
So things that are in the mid-year review, one is a staff person for the finance. They asked for a person, we just didn't have the funding to do it, so it's in the mid-year review. The police department asked for 3 officers, 2 of them are in the mid-year review, third one, we just, you know, probably not gonna happen. And then there was a request for an additional parks personnel, and that also is on the mid-year table for the mid-year review as we get. There wasn't funding available at this time. Things that were just, we couldn't contemplate how to fund it was that 3rd police officer. There was a request to take one of the parking enforcement positions and make it full-time and add benefits to it. So that would be the cost for that full-time and to take it benefits. The next one is complicated. It involves all 3 of those lines. So if you drop down 3 lines where it says program manager, that is the project manager position that you've been talking about. And where we're at right now is we have 2 candidates right now, and we've got one interview, one of them's on interviews next week. Okay, so we've done an exercise here that figuring, so to defunding the open city engineer position and funding this position is what that would entail. But I asked that let Public Works continue their process. If they get the right candidate and they accept, then this isn't in play, but they could be coming to us. I told Chris he's got till the 1st of November. He's got to get these people interviewed. And he's got, otherwise he's got, if he wants this project manager position and it doesn't get included in this budget process, it's first time we do a budget amendment in the first quarter, so he's gonna be 60 or 90 days without a body. And he doesn't want that, and I don't think any of us want that, so he's gotta figure that out, but we figured out a process to fund this, and why it's complicated, because one says CE1 and the other one's CE2 and the years. It's because our current city CE1, city engineer one, is a, what's the term for them when they're not an engineer? They're a EIT, engineer training. And so you graduate from college, you have to work for a period of time, and you have to sit for the exam. We have one of those, and next year when he's successful in passing the exam, now he's got a license and he's worth more in the world, when we need to promote him to a city engineer too. So we know that's coming, and so we'll defund the city engineer one position in 2026. So it's complicated. It involves a number of lines. You guys, we talked about a communication specialist. This budget funds the contract position at 25,000 a year. I think we've been doing a better job with that. I just couldn't find $300,000 to fund that would come out of the general fund. And then HR is adamant that we need a safety and risk management coordinator. She feels we're an L&I claim away from spending more than that, but it's finding dollars to pay for that it was challenging.
Why
So
would that, for example, have to be funded solely from the general fund? Why couldn't it be split?
it would be split, but
Okay.
it's still a portion of it would come out of the general
Okay.
fund. Streets come out of the general fund.
Okay, so the risk management could be split.
It could be split.
Okay.
Yeah, but it'd be.
You know, I agree, it's my lowest priority on the
It's
list.
it's not a high priority.
Ooh, I should say that publicly, but, it's split, it's 2 years.
Still.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, so let's jump to the next one, which is, this was bodies. The other ones is things. And so things that are on the mid-year reviews. Randy would like to see I think we'd all like to see a more robust work website. Our current website though costs us about, yeah, we spend $1,000 a year on our current website, so
But that's
40,000.
splits.
It is.
Okay.
But it's still 40,000 a year, 80,000 for the 2 year. We spend about $2,000 right now. Noah would greatly appreciate having a budgeting module, and we talk about that in the mid-year review. And so everything that we're.
Eliminate an employee.
No, but.
No, and then I think this came up when we first started.
I started looking at it, there's
Yeah.
lots of softwares and I'm like, softwares are great, but they gotta make us more efficient, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can't just, yeah.
This process that his team's been working on for 60 days or more, and it would just make this not such a heavy lift on his department to create and manage the budget, but
Now, forgive me, I thought this had to do with being public portal.
it does that too.
Where our citizens could zero in
It does
on
that
the
too.
site and give us more transparency. Almost working as a PIO without paying the benefits of a PIO.
Well, this doesn't, this isn't, gonna-
Almost.
no, this is only gonna do budget. It's not gonna
Right,
tell.
but you're
Tell
giving
anybody
information.
there's a road closure.
No,
or-
but you're giving information out to our citizens about our budget. They could zero in on this
There
thing.
would be a widget on our
Anytime.
website, you're right, that they could go to this portal.
So it does improve transparency dramatically, not as much productivity on your end.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So and I'll send you some links, stuff from Sudsy that have a similar product, if you will, but allows for public to actually click the link to see your live time budget and graphs, see where we're on tails, but it's more user friendly, graphical. They can drill down into the budget and it pops for the public a little simpler, public and council and as well as staff. And so you can actually track the budget a little easier. It's more transparent. And then when we look at the projects, you can actually have project pages that talk about the project, what it is, the project budget, the activity. So all the things that we kind of internally do, and we always have to run reports and then say, okay, I'm gonna get back to you. So I gotta do our work and make it in a format that is easily digestible, this type of product. So There's some products like OpenGov, OpenBook.
So what do we do with that extra capacity if we take that off of the staff? Where's that efficiency built in when you,
Well, some things.
'Cause you're not
are-
building those now,
some things
right?
are about a growing city, right? I've heard we want to be more transparent. We want the public to see more. And as you grow, you see the larger cities have these type of products, right?
yeah, no,
And it's just not necessarily always about productivity. It's about, stepping our game up as far as communicating to the public about what's really city.
What's probably more realistic is if you get this budget module. Maybe then we're able to kick the can down the road as far as adding another FTE to the department, because we have both of those requests in this budget too.
That would be things before bodies,
Yeah,
but the things would be cheaper than a body.
Overall.
well,
Well, and the body does a lot. The body's not gonna be just a budget based. body.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, people see our capital project list. We're running a $15 million project, capital project budget with, one FT manager. It's a lot. We're overloaded in the last part, we're scrambling. So that's really what the request is, to actually get some capacity, some support to actually manage these capital projects. Because we're running at per Denise says, we've got way too many projects, we should stop. Finish what we got going before we add any more, because we are doing way more than so this is another body to actually help manage projects, give us some overlap in our department. We actually have some cross training going on, and so we're not so exposed when someone gets sick or has to take leave,
goes on
or
vacation.
goes on vacation, or all those kind of things that are real life things that occur. And we scramble because we just don't have a human to step in that role. So two different things. I don't want to confuse them. They are the same thing.
yeah.
This is more about transparency, helping us build a budget in that process. And then the product within at the end, produce a better book, I would say, a better budget book that's, GFOA certified, and meets all our kind of financial goals, a real polished document, and in more real time. Because there is a lag between us trying to produce the work, take the data in, and then make something that's understandable for everyone.
So it's on the mid-year review list, and probably if we're gonna have it for the next biennial budget, that's something we probably want to seriously consider. In mid-year, if there's revenues, able to do that. If you look at the 7 pre-funding, remember when we said we funded first year debt service on all the loans? This is the one loan that didn't happen, and we need to, but we just took that loan. So the first payment won't be due for a year out, so but we do need to fund that in the next half of the biennium. Public Works asked for a facilities needs assessment. I felt that was something that would be nice to have, but wasn't our highest priority at this time. Also, Dennis was asking for us, Fred remembers the Magic Bus that went around, and they do radar of the subsurface of our roads, and they drive on, so it's a pavement condition and assessment. So that's on the mid-year review. There's been talk about us developing an intertie between, we have one with Bremerton, but to develop one between us and the West Sound utility. And so that would be the study and potential design of that.
Are those funds able to pay for it or not? The water operating?
Yes, it would.
Okay,
The water operating is not healthy right now.
okay. That's what I-
That is the fund that would be
Okay.
responsible for.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Because usually I like to think the enterprises have plenty of money.
Everybody seems to think that, and I always say, you guys.
The capital side, we're doing pretty good on the capital side, but on the operations side, in particular, water isn't super healthy. We see it's a water infrastructure preservation. Normally, we put $300,000 into water operations from the capital to pay for water line replacement in the aging infrastructure. Instead of, we know that we're gonna replace water line down here in Bay Street, instead of funding it into the account, we just programmed those dollars into the project budget versus into the fund balance. We want to remove that water tower that's over there by South Shed. That would come also out of the water operations fund. There just wasn't $350,000 to do that. And,
Paul Powers Park.
yes,
Yeah.
in there,
yeah,
Wasn't there a bomb there over the weekend?
some sort of.
Did you hear it?
they didn't take out the water tower.
Alright. Is it full? They would have just.
No,
put out the-
it's empty.
Okay.
The tank's empty. This Swiss cheese on the top. This software, Civics Plus, that would replace C-Click Fix and it'd be our own software. Right now, C-Click Fix it's that county's product. We're piggybacking on it. And it takes a day or two.
Mhm.
There's a delay getting it to us, and sometimes it doesn't get to us at all. And so it'd be really nice to have our own product, but you know, it was $40,000 to fund that, so we're
Is
gonna.
that per year or what? Or is that just?
It's a biennial
one
number,
time?
so it's 20, all of these, you know, whether it be the budgeting module or the C-Click Fix, those are ongoing subscriptions. They don't, you know, they don't go away,
Paid for sequel picks.
nothing. Yeah,
That's
it's
what-
like the website, it's
The right
the
price to
price.
be.
The county pays for it and they assign to us if it's city literature.
Yeah.
It's like copyright, if you wanna get rid of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, road preservation would have been nice to put, you know, $1.7 million into the roads, we just didn't have it. You know, that would make a significant difference, but we could find about 950, so there's 800,000 that will, you know, if we've got extra money, we'll talk about doing more paving at the mid-year review. Things that just didn't, you know, didn't even make the mid-year review, I get kind of a cut line somewhere. HR would like to do some survey work for an inclusion commission. If that survey work got done, then have a staff training related to it. The Axion signal controls for the police vehicles. Right now, the body cameras, our officer has to turn it on manually, or if one of their weapons is drawn, it automatically turns it on. This feature, anytime they exit their vehicle, it would automatically turn the cameras on. Chief would like to have that, but you know, it just comes out of the general fund. But there's just these next couple are related to emergency operations and chiefs are emergency, and they aren't big dollar amounts, but you know, once again, they were coming out of the general fund, so. When we get down to public works, this is what we. Well, this is what we historically, about 30 grand a year is what we spent on our horrible HVAC system we had here at City Hall and keeping it functioning. So we have a brand new system. It has a warranty. We're gonna need to replace some filters, but we didn't need to program big dollars into the maintenance of it at this time.
Okay, so that's savings because we upgraded, okay.
Because we got a brand new
So it's like,
system.
how do we normally have that? Yeah, okay.
Because that's what it was costing us every 30,000 a year to keep the system running. It was a bad day. This is the Givens Park study. That is to do a master plan for the Little League fields. Nick would like to do that. We did the automatic door openers here on the second floor. So we don't have them on the third floor. Public Works put dollars in there to potentially do that. This 10,000 for special events, signs and barricades, Public Works asked for like 100 grand. Because they say that's what we need to do all the festivals properly. We said, well, we'll buy some and we'll rent some. And we'll see how these new barricades that you want. The challenge with our water barricades is a lot of the event holders drain the water, pull the plug on, drain the water out of them and move them out of the way. These will take a piece of equipment to move, and so they're more permanent in nature. So we're gonna try those out. Public Works would also like to have a mobile, like a job shack office out at the shop, because they're running out of space for bodies. And I'm not too sympathetic for this request because I've got a 20-ish people out there in the shop that should be out in the field, and they all have a desk. And I got 20 patrol officers that share 4 desks. And that seems to work. I think we can share space there. I don't think everybody needs to have their own desk. So I don't think we need to go And that's the lease of a trailer, it's not the buying of a trailer, so, so I did grant that request. And then, since we didn't remove the water tower, I didn't feel there was a need to master plan or what the park and the improvements should be out there at Falls Towers. So that is the highlights of the mayor's budget, and I'm certain that you have questions.
Comments, questions, follow up? Anyways,
Can sorry, can I cut in and follow up on the seasonal conversation, just so you guys asked some questions about that and I was able to pull some data while you were talking. So, our average seasonal worker for this year worked about 400 hours, and that removed some anomalies where we had some really short-term ones and we just hired some new ones. So, and that was over 10 bodies. So 7 of them averaged 400 hours, and then I have 2 small anomalies. So those 1,000 hours that are included in there, that would be if somebody stayed for the maximum amount of time, but we know that maybe that doesn't always happen.
Those 4 bodies are likely gonna be, 2 positions are likely gonna be.
So we're still over the budget.
Yeah, so our goal would be to have somebody for 6 months, knowing that nobody's gonna stay 6 months. It's gonna be 3 to 4 to 5 people.
So. That's tough one, because really you budgeted, you spent for 4, even though we allocated for 6.
Because we've got to be able to hire.
I get that, right? Like, so I'm just, maybe that's a policy thing rather than a budgeted thing, because there's 120,000, there's another FTE we could add to that if you allow more heads than are allowed. Just know that you have a budget for a temporary employee. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
say it again, so we can try.
That sounds more like a policy deal, because what she just said, with over 10 employees and an average of 400 hours, 4,000 hours. We currently budgeted at 1040 per employee. We already have 4. So even though we allowed you to go up to 6 this year, you still only spent the dollars for 4 employees.
Yes.
So that sounds like, because now
Well, I
I'm
would say
gonna
it's a policy.
withhold
I said-
another $120,000 for this next year that we're not actually going to expend, because it's a policy issue
Well,
rather
well,
than a budget
We,
issue.
John, that's not accurate, because
Yeah.
we hope to expend that. I just gotta have enough people willing to work for the city of Port Orchard. So
Yeah.
I'm asking for the head count and the dollars to work 6 people.
But in all reality, a
Well-
college kid is not gonna work 1040, period.
Okay, that's why I'm saying it won't be, those 2 heads won't be 2 people. It'll be it'll be, you could be 5 people to get to those hours. And hopefully I can find that many people to do that body of work.
And I
But
think-
we're
yeah.
budgeted at 6,
We're budgeted,
at
Your
6
your budget-
people,
correct.
For
That's what
26 weeks.
Okay.
And we didn't use anywhere near that, right? I'd be curious to go even further back to see that.
No, I see.
But you see where I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think-
Dollar
let
wise
me try to-
versus
yeah, so.
heads.
So we
wise.
always, when we put a budget together, we have to fund as if we're gonna have that person there full time all the time. Our expectations were that we would have the 4 people, and then we'd add 2 more, we'd have it fully spent. Reality sets in, we only expensed up to 4 people. Those are all good, true statements. I don't think it's a policy decision, it's not something that we try to control, we try to fill.
We're trying to fill the position.
So I think,
I'm following all
I think
that.
you're going, I think
But
if
again,
I'm following, you're gonna say, well, do we
This
really
is
need?
different than
six?
a full-time FTE in the finance department that we know we want to fully fund for the year,
Yeah.
right? These
Yeah.
are,
Yeah, so this is an appropriate, I think, appropriate topic for the council and mayor to discuss. Last time you said you want more seasonal work, you want them out there in the parks, so we did that, we followed what came out of the
So
trees.
we tried
put in
to
6.
fulfill it.
And maybe now you guys having some data, want to pivot that decision or topic to
And
something
what,
else.
one other thing that happens, as we do the mid-year review, if I was only able to hire 5 worth or 4 worth, then those dollars are there. When we go to do the mid-year review, we've got what we call cash carry forward, and we relook at what our expenditures have been. And so we will likely, we'll have those dollars to be able to look at things that are on this mid-year review list. Because we'll have unspent dollars. Does that make sense?
Kind of, because we built this whole budget that way because we're conservative in that, right? We had that conversation several months ago where we wanted ultra conservative, middle conservative, and conservative, right?
The right amount of
You're
conservative.
right, because it's all conservative, because we know that there's flex in this budget at the end, and I'm saying, I think I would rather see, like, here's your bucket of dollars, go forth and for seasonal work specifically, right?
But we can't budget that way. Because statutorily, we have to have a balanced budget. And you guys have to approve my org chart, my FTE count, and the dollars. I don't have that
So we use
flexibility.
Your point again, just.
Because it's a seasonal temp
Right.
type of role.
Yeah.
I would rather see it a line item for dollars rather than people's.
Like the number of hours spent on seasonal work. As
I don't
opposed
even
to
care about
people.
hours, like, if we're saying that this is where we're at 59,200 per seasonal person, right? I would rather go out and say, you've got $240,000 to spend in seasonal employees this year.
We can give you the number.
Whatever it is, you know what I'm saying, but that, in the dollar amount.
Yeah.
That way they have the flexibility to do as they need. I'm trying to build you some more flexibility here is what I'm
I
trying. to
hear what you're saying, but
Okay, I think I get it. I think I'd have to go verify the salary table,
Yeah,
but we
yeah.
do have.
Because
we
you
have
do
the
it at
flexibility.
26 weeks,
So if you're
and
saying,
none of them, I would guess none of them, I don't know that to be true, but most of them did not work anywhere near 26.
but John, we're not. You're correct. I do have that, but
you have the flexibility,
We
we're
have-
doing what you're asking.
we
But we're
have,
adding more in that will be unused dollars at the end that I would
but
find
John,
a full-time parks
we-
employee for if we're not spending those
I
dollars.
couldn't
today.
get to a full-time Spartan person with those dollars.
Yeah, there's not enough there.
There's not even close.
Or finance support.
So,
Let's go back.
We got 1 year right here if I didn't do that, right?
but we're doing a biannual budget. I have to be able.
I hear you, but I'm saying like, so there's part of it, right? If I
Right.
really want to go dig in.
Remember,
and I-
the numbers that Rebecca gave us, on the 6 positions that we had, we went through 10 people in that to eat away at that bucket of dollars.
Yep.
But I can only have at the most, in the FTE chart, 6 of them at once. Okay, I can have 6 bodies, but the 6 FTEs turn into multiple people,
And I follow that.
10, 12.
I would say, what I'm trying to say, is maybe at the bulk of that, because you know 1 or 2 of them within the first, how long are not gonna work out. Maybe you do have 8 of them at one point, as
Yeah.
opposed to just they're
Yeah.
giving you that bucket of
It's a-
dollars, because there's also a
Oh,
peak season of when you need those people.
you are running a risk of doing that.
A little bit,
If
right?
you-
But they're temporary, I just cut them off early.
Or when the dollars run out.
Here's the other, Chris
That's what I said, that's a policy
Square,
thing
the
more than.
manager out there, doesn't call them seasonals, he calls them summer help. And some are help and some are not, okay? And we gotta be,
I heard that.
we've gotta be careful how many of these summer help that we have, because we have to manage them. We have to train them and manage them. And having too many, it's a.
And finding the right ones, right? I
Yeah,
get that.
Correct,
I've-
and so, because if we have too many and they don't have enough oversight, then I got a group of kids out there
Some good and some not.
playing hideout.
I heard all
So-
of it.
This is in response to what you guys said at the retreat. This is an inexpensive way to add more capacity to our parks and our beautification, which is a big hot button with Eric Warden.
Agreed. And I'm just here trying to give you the more flexibility. Use those dollars,
Yeah.
right? Like, use all of those dollars, because I think that's a way to
And-
help in
and-
parks
and
and
I
we keep
want-
talking
and I
about
want to.
parks. Right? Because we didn't use all those dollars.
Well, but we tried.
Agreed.
We advertised, we brought them in, advertised, brought them in, you know, it's a process.
Yep, yep,
right?
yep, 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 yep.
So we
Just
do
because
our-
you're asking for it doesn't mean you're gonna get it, right?
Right, yeah,
You
yeah.
can-
I mean,
yeah,
yes, we
yeah,
have
yeah.
I'm
tried.
still just trying to make that
Yeah.
easier on
Right.
you.
I thought you were saying, I thought you were saying.
And we've reallocated them into this budget.
Because
And at mid-year review, we'll do the same thing.
Okay.
It would just.
you're asking for more, because I knew like. at 1040, we didn't use that last year in all 6 of them, right? So that was
Yeah.
where that is, and we'll probably go through this again tonight, so.
Yeah, no, but this is
Just
good
know.
to hit on, because this is the kind of conversation we'd like to have with finance,
Correct.
committee, right? Because this is where you guys can weigh in on, what the proposal is.
Start
and how we're
getting
addressing
into it, I
the
get into
goals.
some nitty gritty.
So the bottom line though, is you guys are asking us to do more in the parks and out there. And I can't do more if there aren't more bodies. And this is those summer hires are the least expensive way.
I don't
to
think
do-
anybody's,
To do that work.
So are you supportive of that approach?
yes, I wanna make it more flexible for him too, right? That's what I'm trying to say.
We can't.
We are-
And maybe you can't, this is why I'm just.
Yeah.
If
That's good.
if there's a pot of dollars that we
Use
could
for
say
whatever
instead
flexible
of
management tool. that we
Correct,
use to
yeah,
fully
correct, to
employ.
get there and have that.
I have
Yeah.
a question for you.
Yeah.
Let's say you wanted to fund this Parks and Public Works position of 286.
Yep.
Which is currently, I think, on so if you were to fund that, how would you adjust these funds?
Yeah,
Is
so
one way
like,
that I'm thinking.
correct, I would say, hey,
Okay.
we didn't use all those funds in,
Right, okay.
in the
So, right,
summer help,
yes, yeah,
right? There's half of it, and then
okay.
I'm gonna
yeah,
ask
so-
some additional
so
questions
For
on.
example, if you eliminated these two summer
spending.
help, that would still not be enough for the 286 here.
Right.
So,
But-
but you'd have to look.
But we can find other places,
Right,
that's
okay,
where I'm about to
okay,
get into some other questions around,
Okay,
spending money on voter registration.
Okay.
Or,
okay.
things like that, right?
Right.
Where do those numbers come from? These are questions that I don't know the answers to, it's not necessarily.
Kids that county provides it
Just a
to us.
minute. Um,
Yeah.
on this page here, for the revenue where it has utilities, is it possible, if not tonight, maybe some other night, to have like an asterisk explaining what this utilities line means?
Yeah,
It's water and sewer.
We can go there tonight.
Okay, or is it somewhere else?
It's utility
That was what my
It's
question was.
yeah,
I just
so-
wanted a breakdown of that because these other things could be also considered utilities, like electric, but that's broken out separately than what we call utilities in this table. So, I put utilities here and I say this utilities here is referring to water and sewer and storm or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
we can do that. That's fine.
Yeah, and I don't need that tonight, but I just wanted to see how that was,
I might have.
Yeah, question about elections?
Okay.
Well, just some of the dollars,
Like
right? So I know
confusion.
election cost is an
I
election
look at
cost.
this.
Yeah.
But then if I'm paying the election, why are we also paying for
Okay.
voter registration?
That's how.
yeah, that's what we have to, yeah. And I like to know what it is.
Okay, and it's,
So, yeah.
So.
it was in two different places in here as well,
There's one for election costs and then one for voter registration.
and voter registration, because we get 90, okay. yeah.
Are
Yeah.
those
One month,
discretionary?
yeah.
Are those, or do we have to do those?
We have to do that.
Okay,
We have to,
Yeah.
anybody that registers to vote.
in the city.
In the city.
Yeah.
We have to pay that
We
cost.
pay that, okay.
Yes, and then we also have the cost of the election too.
Right.
For our elections.
Mm.
And then it would be, if we chose to run anything, as far as a ballot measure, that
Yeah.
would be beyond that, and we need to budget additional funds.
Is it per head? What?
So this budget came from the clerk's department, so Brandy can be on some of these questions that I can.
We're taking historical numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I'm just curious on like, if we're paying X amount, what does Spokane pay, right? Like,
they're proportional.
yeah, I wanna know
We
what
get,
is
we
that
get a
per
bill,
head?
we
Yeah.
get a bill from the county.
There was another one, I wish I would have brought everything with me,
Numbers are.
that we paid, $200,000 in, utility tax. Yeah, I was like, what do you mean we pay utility tax?
Well, we collect it on our own utilities.
Yeah.
It's kind of sitting around.
I need to memorize these.
I can go upstairs and check on the room upstairs with you guys.
We're just gonna keep going.
Because we're just.
So I'm already on.
Or you.
No, you guys had some questions, so I want to pause, give you a chance. If you're gonna keep looking at questions, I want to go through a couple more
Go
slides,
for it.
and then we can get back to questions.
Yep.
Good, okay. So what I have now is what I call the income statement. This is also in your book. It's also on the next page here, I think tab 3. Tab 3. Yep. So mayor's kind of went, again, we put the budget together, we balance it, we use fair regional assumptions on our revenues. We plug the data from our departments on expenses, finance the payroll budget based on FTEs. So we put together a balanced budget. We highlight it in the mayor's highlights. things we think you guys would find interesting, either because they're high dollars or there's things that you guys have requested. Through your work at the retreat, you had identified certain things, so we try to highlight those, like, hey, we were able to add, 2 seasonals to try to beef up the parks plan. Now you guys can discuss whether you still like that idea. But we ultimately come to the income statement right here, which shows us how we're doing financially. Right, so after incorporating all the changes, all the requests, and again, I'll point back. So with the departments, we try to fund everything that they request as reasonably possible. And those are the things then that we're not able to fund. And so we identify those, and those things that we always said, well, hey, we'll talk about those mid-biennial once we have more data information on how we're performing. But all the information is incorporated into this. So on this income statement, this is the couple things I wanted to point out on this. So our current expense fund is our general fund, or 001, main operating fund. We're forecasting to begin the biennium with roughly $9 million in cash investments. We're forecasting to receive $29 million in revenue, and the budget has $35 million in expenses, which means that we will spend down our beginning fund balance throughout the biennium, and then end $3 million for 2026. Now, this value does, again, like I said before, exceed our working capital balance. So from that perspective, it's fine. It's not a concern. And if you've been here the last couple of years, like you have, Fred and Mark, this is not that uncommon for us to have a large fund balance and to spend down that cash as we go. Now, the one thing I will comment that is a concern for me ongoing is the trend that revenue is not keeping up with expenses. Revenue is good. We talked about that revenue increasing a little bit. 12% in taxes, 5% overall. That's a good, strong revenue growth. It's our expenses, our payroll budgets that are growing faster than our revenues. Also, you have service contracts, all those kind of ancillary support items to actually support your employees are growing faster than our revenues. So just kind of identify that again, I'll make this comment, like, I think for this biennial budget, we're fine where all our funds. But if this plays out this way, then the 27-28 budget will be a very challenging budget. So when we began this process and we kind of looked at everything, this where we said, hey, we really need to be cautious about adding employees because those are long-term commitments, especially those that hit the general fund. So those employees that were added for storm and sewer, you can see down the store sewer funds, those are pretty healthy, not a lot of concern, kind of ongoing operations.
So
Go ahead.
in an ideal world, would you prefer that our expenses would not exceed our revenue?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, in a perfect world,
Okay.
that would be
I
ideal.
prefer
Yeah.
much
Yeah,
higher
no, I
revenue.
I would prefer that too.
Yeah.
Okay, then asking the opposite side of the coin, like, is there any reason that our fund balance would need to be at that level? I mean, what if it were like $1 million lower at 2?
Well, yes. So they would violate our $2 million would violate our working capital policy threshold.
Okay.
You're just introducing more cash flow risk,
Risks.
right? Risk you're not gonna make payroll, risk you're not gonna make your
In
AP
27
payments.
and 28.
Yeah, anytime if you're
Okay.
really general fund was really that low, that's kind of, I think before I got here, even before Alan got here, that was the challenge with the city, is that they were really trying to have enough cash to make payroll. So we've worked really hard to not be in that position, to have reserves, to have working capital balance, so that we can feel confident.
We
in our employees'
didn't have the
businesses.
sales tax base that we had today, so we were living on property taxes. So we were, yeah, very much so. So to answer your question, so not only do those the lighting controls don't work up there, so the lights are on and they stay on.
Okay,
We should, so
I confirmed
don't
what I
mess,
thought.
don't mess
Okay,
with it.
yeah. It's okay, they don't turn off. I tried every one and I gave up. Okay, no, I get that. So, but let's say this council for some reason wanted a lower ending fund balance because they justified other expenses. So you're saying like the lowest ceiling instead of 3 million should be at least 2 million?
No, I just said, you said.
Okay.
I said,
Okay. All right.
There's a.
Well, I heard
working capital
2
balance
million
target
something from you, okay.
that- so yeah, when we put together a budget, as far as any fund balance, I'm always targeting that working capital balance fund target. So I said that this achieves that and is slightly above our minimum, So it's within the range.
No, I'm not happy about that, the open balance, yeah.
Now, as we kind of go through this process, if the council says, hey, we really,
We spend it in this budget, so whether you're happy about it or not, it's going away, so.
we really want to focus on something else. We really want to fund this $100,000,
You gotta
Could we
find
add that
something
to
you
the
don't
budget?
wanna fund.
right?
It's not about revenue, it's about expenses.
And that's what you were kind of doing, right, Fred? You're saying like, well, would you
Yeah.
trade this off?
Yeah.
For that? Yeah, and that's a reasonable proposal, and then we can kind of look at that.
You know, and the list, what got presented and what's in the mayor's budget is the request. So one, Noah starts with, what have we historically spent? Okay, and then from that baseline budget. Comes then the director's requests, okay? From the director's requests, you get the mayor's budget and the things that we were able to fund. The things that would, I'd like for you guys to consider at mid-year review and things that I just didn't see a path forward on.
Is our mid review in June of next year, or is it the end of 25?
It's the end of 20.
Yes.
Okay.
We started,
Mid-biennial review.
yeah, we
Okay.
started in the
Yeah.
summertime and you
Okay.
guys in like November
Okay.
are approving, but that budget adjustment in November-ish.
It's just that when I hear mid-year, I'm thinking, oh, that's.
I know, everybody says mid-year.
June, July.
I do it too, but I go, no, it's not.
No.
mid-year, it's-
Mid-biennial,
Okay.
mid-biennial
So
review.
Fund 001's our general fund. Are we not in the middle of or starting negotiations with a couple of the workforce
It's the
unions?
police guild, yes, yes. We have a contract that expires at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And you're correct, we need to leave some powder dry, we don't know. Where
Right.
we're gonna end up.
Well, we knew what the projections were.
We've put dollars in there for what we think, but we may not think the way they think.
Correct.
So if you guys are comfortable with the income statement, do you have any questions on the income statement?
That's not new, you see that?
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah. So then we can talk on capital budget, or do you want to address some questions? I see you making notes.
Probably. Leave it for tonight.
Well, I'd rather hear them now.
Would you? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are some things I think when we get into here, some of it's just nitpicky line item stuff and, but others of it, so when we start getting into, say, street funds, let's say sewer fund, where's the sewer? I have to notice that, because that one's the highest. Monthly city utility tax payment,
Where are you, John?
$348,000, page 56, 2/3 the way down.
So that is, we charge a utility tax on our sewer operating funds. And that goes into our general fund. We charge also utility tax on sewer or water and storm also.
Yep, and you'll see, we also have to pay the state.
So I get the state, right, because the state will take their share, but
And the city, so the
the
city
monthly city
charges.
tax, we charge ourselves our own tax.
We charge our
We charge our-
enterprise fund and it puts money into our general fund.
Yep. And we're actually pretty
Okay,
low.
so that's, I had questions on that in, because I believe that also happens in water.
Happens in every.
It happens, okay.
Every utility.
So
Every
that
utility.
is, so help me understand that. So we charge a tax to our constituents on their
Utility.
utility.
We charge it on their gas bill, their electric bill, their phone bill.
This expense is us taking a subsection of that revenue and putting it into our capital fund?
In our general fund.
Okay,
General
General
fund.
fund.
oh, okay. So that we can use some of those dollars in our
Right.
budget.
Police officers and
The rest of all that goes into capital fund?
General.
it all goes into general.
Yeah. the
So
utility
then why do
tax-
we need to take this out if it already goes into the general fund and put it into the general fund?
So we charge our utility tax. And the accounting transaction is I charge a tax and expense to 411. And once the tax is paid, it's a revenue receipt to my general fund 001.
So it's a revenue on that side, and it's expense on the other side.
Okay, so that's just.
So there's no net money.
Yeah.
We can't have
Well.
an income on one side and expense on another and have there be a net.
It reduces, it's an expense to the utility. And it's a revenue to the general.
And just stop there for a minute, just kind of that through, right?
So it's $300,000 that
It
comes
goes
out of
to
the,
where, in what fund?
We'll
into
say
the general fund,
the water,
001.
So the income,
so the water.
tax
fund
income,
is
right?
just
So I take that.
Water business, the water business, we charge the water business a tax. The water business pays the tax to the city. And when I receive the money, I
That goes
receive that
into-
into my general fund, 001.
Okay.
And we use that money for general fund expenses.
So where is this $348,000 going?
Into the general fund. Into the pot, into that,
Are you looking
into
for
that-
revenue offsetting that?
into,
the general fund?
it goes into this bucket right here.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand, if I already put money into general fund, if this original money came into the general fund.
No, it didn't, it didn't. it didn't.
Okay, okay, that's what I heard you say.
No, this is, you're looking in the
Expenses.
sewer fund.
It's an
An
expense.
expense of the sewer fund. Sewer fund has to pay this, the bill,
Correct.
that's all.
And they get that money from,
Ratepayers.
which goes into the general fund.
Yes.
So that money's already in the general fund.
No. It was in the utility.
You
fund.
just told me it was in the general
No, we
fund.
put it in there. So.
So then we're missing a step.
Okay,
So it comes in and it goes where?
into the general fund.
No, no, can I jump in real quick? So the money, when a customer pays their utility bill, that goes into the utility fund, so water, sewer, storm. So the rates come into the water, sewer, and
It goes
storm fund.
into Fund 431.
Yes, the money, the
We
rates,
can Take the utility tax portion of that money and put that into the O1.
Oh, yes. Yes.
How often do we do that, monthly or?
Yeah, it looks like monthly, right?
Okay.
12 to $29,000. So, okay. So,
and we charge other utilities within the city that, so City of Bremerton and West Sound also pay that tax.
that,
So water goes. to
fully
water.
following that now, because I was trying to understand where that money originally came from.
That's why we call them enterprise funds. They are a separate entity
Correct.
than the city
Oh, so-
itself.
You see what I'm saying now? I was trying to say it was all going into O, he was trying to tell me it goes into O1, and now we're putting more money from this fund into O1, but now.
It goes into,
Thank you,
it
Rebecca.
goes into the utility, we collect utility
It
funds.
goes into 431, specific to
and
this
then-
one,
And then we make,
and then we're gonna take that out and put it in.
yes,
Thank you. That
Yeah.
Answers my question. You're gonna get that right tonight.
why would you ask it again tonight?
It's not gonna be coming from me.
Oh,
Question, if I may.
I don't understand, others don't, right?
Okay.
So we need to know where that's coming and going.
And I will say, you know, our city, this is very common.
Yeah, no,
It's
I'm not-
not-
Our utility taxes are lower than most
Our
cities.
utilities are less.
I just wanted to know
So that's an area.
where
we could-
originated, where
They
it
could
goes.
be made on part. We didn't even charge gas utility
Yes, we
tax
did.
until certain years.
Yes,
We started doing it because we didn't use it.
well, no, we did, it was a,
So lower.
it was 2%
Okay,
and the others were at 6%.
yeah. So we.
So I mean, if you guys truly, I'm not advocating for this, I'm not recommending for it. But if you're wanting more revenue, that's one
Like
place
utility tax.
you can increase
Or just
utility
look
taxes.
how they compare to different entities. Real quick question about 411, when you said it was not healthy, why is it not healthy?
Okay.
Was there a certain?
I'm glad you-
Expense or
you're
something?
taking notes, and that's great. So when you look at 411, the ending fund balance is right at that working capital policy level. That's like right there. I call it 900,000, so maybe the policy is 910. It's right there. So I don't have a lot of flexibility if things go the wrong way. Right, so where the general fund says maybe 2.6 million, so it's 300,000. So there's a little bit of wiggle room there, right? Where this one isn't, and the other reason we said it's not super healthy is because you can see the revenues again, 8.8 million, expenses are 10.
Are we not charging enough for water? Is, what do you?
We just went through a water rate setting study 2 years
Okay.
ago,
Yeah.
and again, the big driver of our enterprises right now is debt service. So if you guys think about all the loans and projects we have going on, you'll see it in both the water, sewer, debt has been a big driver, and it'll be there for a while, because we're now completing and doing projects that have, what's the term we always use, that didn't get done in the prior.
Yeah,
decade.
kick the can down the road.
So now we're having to.
So
Maybe that's-
remember, when we go to replace a water line in the street, okay? And it's a 4-inch line, and it's old and it needs to be replaced. And we replace it with an 8-inch line, okay? Well, the 4-inch line gets paid for out of the water, from the ratepayers. Okay, the replacement of that, but the extra comes from impact fees. Okay, so there's this, so remember, when you look at the capital funds for these utilities, the capital improvement plans, they have splits. Develop, this percentage, this particular project is funded at 60% development and 40% from city. Well, the city funds are that fund, okay? And so we're doing a whole bunch of capital projects, and the ratepayers have to pay their portion. And we've taken out a whole bunch of loans to get some of these projects done. Well, now we have the debt service, and the utility has to pay its portion.
Do we get to set that percentage for each one?
It's set by a consultant to determine, because it's done,
Because, I mean, just playing devil's advocate, right? The amount of water we use today in a household is distinctly different than what it was 30 years ago, right? We use more water. Same with electricity.
I don't know what I do.
I was hoping we use less, but
well,
then that
I
means
mean,
we make
that's
less money.
the goal.
30 years ago,
Yeah.
most houses didn't have a dishwasher and they didn't have some of the things that we have, like, I mean, so I'm curious and I don't know how all the sausage is made, but now I'd like to know.
Yeah, when we
My
go
job.
through a process to establish, and you'll see this coming up here once we get to the sewer rates and CFCs. We go through a process with a consultant to identify our sewer capital plan, right? And they identify what projects are attributable to growth and how much are just preservation or replacement of existing infrastructure. And they develop, hey, here's, 50% is really for growth, 50% is just to replace what we have. So Marina is a good example. It's a 50-50 relationship where 50% of that cost paid by ratepayers, 50% is due to growth factors. So that's CFC money.
Here's another example. That $1 million I asked you guys to add, that's 100% developer.
Yeah,
Development.
yeah, but I mean, that one,
Cause it's for new capacity. And so the capital facilities charges we've been collecting totally comes out of that fund.
and I was thinking more along Marina, right? 'Cause yes, that's been here for a good long time, but our usage as ratepayers has also gone up over time.
I don't know.
Same thing with electricity, right? We use way more electricity today than we did 30 years ago.
Policy 12.5 to
Depends on the household.
24.
Well, as a whole,
Range.
the average is way higher, right? We're now plugging in our cars that didn't used to plug in and utilize that on top of,
You can see
all the other
beginning
things, so,
there,
yeah.
Depends on the household.
agreed, but as a whole, on the average, it's got.
Yeah.
Definitely on electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
We're following the law, right? Also.
Okay, we got about 20 minutes or so. You got other, you wanna see Noah's, Noah's other presentations? You wanna wait for them for
We didn't
tonight?
get to what your other one was, so we felt
Yeah,
better.
here's a couple that I want to go through with you guys. So we're gonna do the whole operating budget tonight, except for, I'm probably gonna glance through these top slides, but I want to go through it with you guys. Because this is where we'll have the department talk, but I just want to highlight a couple of things. Since we've kind of got this far down into the weeds now. The current expense fund, so 001, salaries and benefits represent 76% of the operating revenues for that fund. Okay, so when we talk about, how much flexibility we have, I would like to go back. This is just hiring people. This is just having our staff payroll budget represents 76% of that operating revenue. That's a large percentage, right? So again, we talk about every year. For the general fund, you'll see that. This is on the expense, no, this is revenues here. 87% of those is from taxes. And then general fund expenditures, when we look at the salaries and benefits as a percentage of the expense budget, it represents 63%. Okay, so the distinction I really make is that, as a business owner, you look at revenue and how much of your payroll can you cover with your revenue, right? So I just give you some perspective about the employee base versus, and that doesn't include, the supplies, the software services, this kind of other variable slash fixed costs to actually run the city.
And he's talking about the employees in the 001 fund.
Yep.
Remember, we've got enterprise funds that pay for some employees. We have this floor right here is largely split between all of the funds and the general fund. Cops are almost solely general fund, and anything to do with our streets and our parks is general fund. So typically what happens when things get tight, cops always get funded. You know, and
want potholes filled.
and we want potholes filled. We may not pave a whole lot of streets, you know, when things get tight, but we gotta fill the potholes, and our parks typically suffer.
Do you have any questions on that, Fred? Okay. So then we can turn to capital, and you guys can have some flavor of capital, how this all can fit together. That's on tab 4. And I'm waiting for this to load up here, but until it does, we just go to tab 4. So I have a high level kind of summary overview of the capital budget. Again, another big budget for us. With roughly $50 million budgeted for capital improvements. When we look at the Fund 302, we identify a rebudgeting of some money from City Hall. So you'll see that throughout this capital budget. We don't always get the invoices in the right period of time. So we have to have some budget in the next fiscal year in order to pay those invoices. So this is City Hall, we're budgeting about $1,025,000. We think the work will all be done, but you know, invoicing and timing don't always work out the way we would hope. So we'll have some budget there. Community Event Center, mainly for the plaza design work.
Do you like? My profit and loss statement at work, that's where when I don't spend that money, I can put that on my balance sheet, so it's not eating out of dollars I would be spending in the future budget. Right?
Following the question.
So City Hall, we already budgeted XYZ dollars
Right.
that came with the revenue that we had anticipated to pay for that already.
Right.
I'm not re-budgeting that again because I've already had that as a liability.
Unfortunately, we do, because
Okay.
once December 31st happens, we start over.
As far as legal authority to spend money.
But, so then my balance sheet is higher than I originally anticipated because I didn't spend those dollars. It
Yes,
started higher.
Yeah.
Correct?
So that's kind of the art that we kind
Yep.
of project out where
Okay.
we'll think we'll close the year.
Correct.
Like we know it was an $11 million project and I'm going, well, I think we're only gonna spend 10 million. So a little bit more fund balance, but then I'll budget the expense the following year.
Correct. Okay.
And that's true.
This is
any-
just me understanding how
Yep.
you put
Yep.
it on paper.
So the community event center is mainly the plaza. Design, and then Gibbons Park, everyone I think is familiar with, although that project has increased. Again, we think we'll get that one started in.
we'll bring the weather window to put sports clubs down, close,
Yeah,
so
okay.
spring.
But do we just gonna find somebody to do it?
No, the state held up our review and permit, our review and approval too long, and all of a sudden, we didn't get the approvals until early September. By the time we went through a public process to advertise, we would have been awarding a contract about now, and you can't put
Sure.
those type of things down.
Heard of them. No, I remember.
I communicated to Wayne.
Is the funding effort,
Doesn't mean you don't.
the funding effort still taking place?
No, they don't seem to be.
I don't.
It's gonna happen. We ran out of the construction window. And then it was due to delays. by the
There's
state.
more time.
I just wondered, because I.
Yeah.
Just recently heard of it.
So you can see our total expenses for capital, general capital construction, 3.2 million. Moving the street. Projects go through here, the Bay Street right of way. And so the first one, project 11, tip 1.1 is the right of way acquisitions for the pathway. Rebudgeting some of that. Project 22, tip 1.7 is Bethel, Lincoln, Bethel, Mitchell. Again, I think we'll have Bethel, Mitchell complete this year. They're just closing that up, I think, but not all those invoices have been processed. And so we got a and again, you probably weren't here, John, but when we started this project, it was really a combo project. It was Bethel, Lincoln, Mitchell. And due to the delays, we were able to go forward with Mitchell. We had a pause on Lincoln due to federal requirements. So we're coming back to the federal piece in this biennium. So I have it separately, but it's really one project in a lot of ways. But, so we
And
have,
that's all three, and that caps Mitchell.
Yes.
This is
yes.
part of it, it
Yeah.
does all of it. Okay,
Yeah.
this is everything.
The next phase of it builds the other roundabout
And caps.
and.
Caps the water.
Yeah,
the next project is, the construction phase of the Bay Street Pathway Design Project. And it's not the full construction, we don't have the full funding identified for that, we're still working through that process. But we do have some dollars in here to remove houses and, do design work. So.
and design and permitting.
Design
Because we have to change the design to meet the new shoreline regulations and get a new shoreline permit, which is probably gonna take us 2 years. But we're
And this is
working.
all, this buy-in.
This is all, yes, yep. Next project, Salmon and Blueberry design work, the 4.2 million there, project 38. Again, design right away for Bethel Phase 1, Salmonberry, Blueberry. This $4.2 million is a big chunk of that is actually coming from our TBD sales tax dollars, which is received into 002, our street fund. And then we transfer that money to the capital fund for this project. So if you look at 002 and kind of wonder what's going on, you get a lot of revenue coming in, a lot of expenses going out. That's the big driver for that.
When we look at these, I think, even just finance committee type stuff, when we look at these capital projects, can we get something that shows what percentage it's funded in the future?
Yeah, so I have another presentation I'm
Working on, okay, perfect.
And you know what would be great is if I had that budget software, because then.
Then you have that, okay.
Trying to
Give you an idea
Good.
of what the software can do.
Even the citizens could.
Yeah, right, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
because
no, I'm with you.
all the
I'm
numbers
with you.
there.
I just,
it's just about explaining
yeah,
it.
you gotta keep. Yeah,
Nice work.
No, keep taking them, right, everywhere you can, utilize that, because that's how you get something through my thick skull.
Yeah. Next project, pottery, again, this is I'd say a rebudget. Where we think pottery is mostly done, but there's gonna be some invoices, you'll see this in our water fund, sewer fund. So there is rebudgeting going on, which means again, when we get to the first quarter or 6 months through 2025, we'll really true up these budgets and say how much we've really spent in the fiscal year ahead. SR 166, this is the big one, $6.5 million for this project out front here. This number will change, no doubt. As I've heard recently that costs have gone up, and so I think the design team, the public team is kind of reviewing what that project is. But we do have some money in there for right now.
It's about $1 million different. We don't know what the breakdown of that, because there's sewer, water, storm, street. All kinds of things in it. So at this point, we know. One, we were $2 million short. Because we were attempting to marry this to the water roundabout all the way around the corner, and we can't afford to. So we're dialing it back to try to get in line with where we need to be, and we know we're still a little bit short.
So this is on hold at this point?
From Geiger, it's just doing utility work and
Adding and buying something?
I don't know even know about that.
No? Okay.
I don't know what was in the scope of it, but it just wasn't. We need
Because
to
when we're gonna connect it to
eventually,
the boulevard?
yeah, eventually, there's a project that is that.
Yeah.
too. But I don't know if it was part of this project.
Sydney non-motorized, this one will also change, so that's the one we just talked about, the finance committee recommending that they're gonna add $1 million for sewer. So we'll make sure that you guys are comfortable, because that's how I represent, we talked about it. That's what we identified, it's not in the current preliminary budget, so there will be a final budget where we say, here's the changes, finance committee recommended. We have the sewer component, and then cost $1 million. Right now, it's $2 million in this budget. Tremont Phase 2 and 3, that's not design, I'm sorry, that's just planning, right?
It's concepts
Concepts, yeah,
and preliminary
and
design.
that's grant funded, so 100% grant funded, well,
And
mostly grant. So
that was what we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago.
I think so,
The
yeah.
sidewalk project from the boulevard to
It's
Sydney.
it's it's the segment of roadway from Sydney to the boulevard. The segment of Tremont that didn't previously get approved, and what that looks like, and the intersections and sidewalks and so forth.
Next project, Anderson Hill Roundabout. This is just design. I think it's taken us from 90 to 100. I think we already have some designs. And we just need to complete them.
Did we get them to say that they're gonna do the entrance?
That's, I don't know.
Wasn't
We,
part of the Anderson Hill roundabout
we
also in
aren't,
conjunction with
we aren't
the?
trading anything.
We're
with
trying
them.
to trade.
They're doing their roundabout, we're doing ours,
Okay.
because we got developer impact fees that had to be spent in that area, which tipped it in our favor to continue to build our roundabout.
And some other kind of benefits of being a government doing a project with a PSC. Yeah, the developer would add.
Yeah, there's power lines that need to get moved,
To the
and
project that we pay for. So
we don't have to pay for those power lines, but if we turn that over to the developer, he has to pay for those, then he's gonna charge us for that,
So we,
and we couldn't recover that money.
our cost analysis that we
Yep.
should do this.
I was just curious.
Yep.
Seeing that dollar number.
Next project, tip 1.19, SB 162A for 645.
Yeah, so that is remember the multi-care project, and Nick showed you that picture where there's a triangle of property that needs to be acquired. So it's for the right-of-way services and the survey work and the acquisition of that little triangle of property. So that Sedgwick can get, so that the road can get widened. It can't get widened if we don't own the right-of-way. So there's a triangle that belongs
And that's the money for the right of way?
right-of-way services, the right-of-way, and the survey work. To determine what we need to buy.
But no design.
No, it's not the, I think the road's somewhat designed, because it's a roundabout. That the private sector is gonna do.
So that takes us through the transportation capital projects. Again, $22 million, big numbers, lots of projects between construction and design right away. Moving on down to water capital, completing well 11. So we're pretty far along on that one. Again, Melcher Booster Station, talked about that one several times. We just ordered that generator a couple meetings ago. But that approved. Project 41 is a rebudget, powdering non-motorized improvements. There's gonna be quite a bit that are completed this year, but soon could be invoices to carry over. SR 166 Bay Street, again, this road reconstruction. This is the estimated kind of cost that would be the water utilities responsibility. And this is that dollar we talked about out of the water fund, rather than 300,000 for preservation, we're allocating $470,000 for this project. Okay. Well 7 design 515,000. We just approved that loan, I think, prior council meeting. So it just got approved, 550,000 for design, starting in 2025, and then we'll probably talk mid-year, mid-biennial review to refund that debt service. And the odd part about these,
Isn't that a 1 year loan
5-year
anyhow?
loan.
it's a 5-year loan, so it's very
Okay, I was
short.
gonna say it was a short loan. I thought it was
Yeah,
and no interest,
interest,
right?
yeah.
So.
and the goofy part of this with the state is they have a start date with their loan. So they'll, by the time we actually have made debt service payment, we might be having to pay 2 years, so.
Because of the way they do it. So-
Yeah,
But you allocate for that. So you'll be ready to pay it.
yeah,
Okay.
I try. I try, but like until we draw, like, we haven't drawn anything yet, but yeah, we're gonna owe 100 grand. So, but we'll do that next year. Foster mitigation, so we do have a foster project identified in our capital plan. They've identified $1 million. We have put this towards purchasing a property to address our mitigation.
We don't,
We don't.
we're still under negotiation with the tribes.
Yep.
We're just putting dollars in there so that we have dollars to perform that mitigation in this biennium if we're able to.
And then project 70 is Old Clips and Water Main. This is a 390 to 580 intertie, and this is loan funded with $1 million. The other 40,000 will come from.
It's the,
our-
to
our-
go up Old Clifton from the industrial park to tie the system into McCormick Woods. So it's the design of that water line.
So I thought we were There was a developer that was interested
Yeah.
in being part of that.
A lot of developers talk about a lot of things.
The next storm capital, so this is again, Pottery is gonna be a rebudget, SR 166, storm portion, that we know this time. And the real project on this one is really Project 68 South Sydney Regional Stormwater Facility. And I believe this is just design, and I believe this is all to be paid for from capital CFC charges. We do have.
And
this is the part,
And this, well, it's a part.
part of it, yeah.
Part of
the
it is a
whole
part,
project, yeah.
and it's a stormwater facility for the south end of Sydney out there at the end of Sherman, so that someday we can put in, storm systems and sidewalks, in the south, that's Sydney South neighborhood.
No questions on that, then we'll move to the sewer capital, again, Marina, this is just a full rebudget, so. Again, that's 50/50 rates and CFCs. Sewer lift station controls, this one's complete sewer operations fund, pay for that. 700,000 Pottery rebudget, SR 166, again, it's sewer portion of the project. And then project 43 South Sydney Ruby lift station design work. That's the project that we have in interlocal agreement with transit. And
So
so
it's just approved that last meeting, but. Yeah, design.
So we have the interlocal government money to pay for that. And then lastly, we have Bay Street sewer lift station design. And I believe that also had a loan, 850,000 from $100,000 grant. But we haven't drawn on that project yet. That's kind of a high clip of the capital projects. I'm hoping to put together a presentation that breaks down each project a little bit better, a little bit more in detail. Just need to get to it in time. So with that, I think that was all the material that we planned to cover also tonight. So now is the time to feedback on presentation material, questions that we should think about, anything that you guys would want to talk about tonight. We did this roughly in about 2 hours. So we have 2.5 hours tonight, and again, we'll have about 20 minutes for the full revenue presentation. I'm hoping that, and we'll have another operating presentation with some departments speaking. So I've talked to each department, try to keep high level, talk about things they think are interesting in your budgets that councilmen want to hear. So I think they're all teamed up for that. And there'll be certain pieces in here that we won't go into as much detail. Full council, but we'll try to get through.
Yeah, I think you're gonna hear some questions around, in the police budget. There's literally a line item for gambling. Like, it looks like we fund a person out of gambling,
We do. It's gambling tax.
so that's,
It's a revenue source.
so we gotta allocate it. out
Yeah,
as
so,
well.
so we get criminal justice money, we get gambling tax money. Those are restricted dollars that can only be spent in the police department. So of course, before we go to the general fund, because there aren't enough gambling or those restricted dollars to pay for much of anything, but we make sure we expend those dollars first before we go to our general fund.
So where are those revenues coming from for gambling?
Card tables,
Enjoy
Oh,
Just
that's
like
what I
the
was
Joyce.
thinking upstairs.
50,000 a year or something. I forget what.
I didn't know, I didn't even know.
yeah, it's gambling tax.
They keep it quiet.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a gambling, I didn't know you could gamble outside of a casino.
Scratch tickets.
Full tabs. Full tabs.
Lottery, is there lottery money that we?
No, I don't think so, we don't get that.
No, but the full tab.
But
Full tabs?
full tabs and card rooms, yeah.
It's not much.
I didn't even know there was a card room.
Mhm.
Or that you can keep it quiet.
You
Uh,
haven't been
So is that
invited.
something?
Well, there might be a reason for that.
I'm not a card player either, but if you were one.
How about,
Is there something you want the chief to speak to?
I think
Because
as a
let me
new
go
person and knowing there are other newbies.
Yeah,
that
well,
maybe
I
just-
mean, I don't think the chief needs, I mean,
No, no, I
we
think
know
you're
it,
answering the questions,
Yeah.
but I think it's just
yeah.
idiosyncrasies, right? I think I saw multiple places where we paid for the farmer's market on the list. I have a marked up copy that I've already looked at, in the admin budget where it comes out of multiple places. Just little things, right? Down to
So are these
The
like
price
prices
of
or
our-
are you just trying to point out stuff?
A little bit of both, right? Like I would say, there was another one I think I had, I'm trying to remember the person, $3,500 for a retreat expense for a
Your guys-
facilitator,
It's
right?
your
Like,
guys'
I
retreat.
think that would be something where I think we could facilitate ourselves and save that money.
Historically, the council hasn't wanted that.
Yeah, and maybe not, right? This is me,
So we,
that's why it's a council,
Yeah.
right? So I'm just bringing up
Yeah.
things like that. So there'd just be odds and ends of
Yeah.
little.
Yeah.
Little things here and there, because again, I'd like to see more people. We went over that, we'd have to find it, right? Because that's a trade-off.
Well, then let's spend a minute and talk about it, because again, what we want to get out tonight's meeting and today's meeting with you is clear direction. Where to take next steps, right? Because we only have so much time and then there's a lot of work to do. So I think it's more helpful if it's clear about what your ask is. If you're satisfied with the budget, then great. We can talk about what the budget is and represent it the best we can. If there's additional things you'd like us to consider, then I think we need to be clear about that to give us time to talk with the departments, talk with the mayor, see what we can do. So I think this is a good time to talk that through.
Okay.
Again, with no surprises, everybody's just gotta be kind of aware of what's going on, because we do our best to present a balanced budget that, you know, meets the council's needs from their goals from the retreat, everything that you guys have talked about, meet the department's requests, keep us fiscally balanced, right? So we do our best to do that. So I really want to hear if there's something that you're thinking that you'd like to investigate further.
yeah, and I'm personally fine facilitating the retreat with Cap's assistance.
Yeah.
But $3,500 for a retreat and $1,000 in somebody's travel
Isn't
budget.
fixing everything.
It
Yeah, no,
isn't-
I'm
it
with
isn't-
you there, right?
You know, we might get to $5,000 or $10,000, but we're not gonna get to a meaningful amount, you know, and we won't, if you guys don't want a facilitator, I won't hire a facilitator.
And I'm just, again, all kinds of, it's so much to cover in a short period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I
If
think
you're
that's
gonna
why-
see the gamut, right, I'll call out the other things like, I would rather go without landscaping,
At City Hall?
in a planner box right away at 50 grand, right, like, I'd rather say.
$50,000 is not doing what we had before. It's basically having drain rock and stuff, and putting some landscaping on this side over here. It's not gonna be as robust as it was before. It doesn't go very far. Because we have
Really? I mean,
people to do the work.
You could put rock over everything that's not on this building on this property right now for less than $50,000. I just bought rock. I've got might have it in here. It's like
You're saying.
$29 a ton,
We get
right?
volunteers.
Like
Yeah.
I'm doing it right now at
We
work.
get the clubs to adopt a site.
And maybe, right? And maybe there's an opportunity to do that we engage the community and things like that. I don't
Well,
know.
then there's money that we haven't spent that we can reallocate somewhere else.
Correct. That's what I'm not trying to, you know.
Well, I think that's what I'm trying to get clear is like, you said you want to hire people, okay? Like, who would you like us to?
More
focus
public
on?
works,
Okay,
right?
for
Like
example,
things that we
yeah.
can fix
If we
curbs
hired that
and
public works-
have people to help beautify our downtown, work in our parks departments, as we've identified that. I think we said 4 is what we said at the retreat, where we want to get to, at FTE in a parks department, right?
And we're two.
And now we can't, yeah, and
We're two. And there was a request to fund a third.
Yep.
But we didn't find those dollars, and it's 280,000.
286, yeah, so if that were a group priority.
Yeah.
these are things that I think are gonna come out of
Yeah,
this.
yeah, for an example.
We're gonna have to discuss that. I can't make those decisions, right? I'm one to say, landscape, but
You know, I
Mark
would,
might say, no, I want it to look pretty, right? He was
Yeah,
part of the
I
group
think
that
there-
said,
I
we want it
think
to
there's a
look like the
priority
original.
List that we have to speak
the
of.
one nice thing about the landscaping
Yeah.
at City Hall is, it's a one time. It happens,
one-time
it
deal,
happens
yeah.
once, okay? And we just spent $11 million on this building, and to leave ditches around the building is not the way we want it. We don't wanna leave it unfinished.
I agree. But maybe there's more than one way to skin a cat.
And it's a plug number. I don't have a proposal. I don't have a design. It's a plug number.
Yeah.
Um,
I gather that. That's why I'm like, 50,000.
yeah,
Could we get by on 5 to 10 and then put in some handiwork
My-
ourselves and do it, you know,
It's union work. I really can't, we probably can't do that without getting in trouble. And
That's the-
y'all spend $10,000 on the labor.
Between private and public, that's the huge.
Prevailing wage.
yeah, I mean,
But no, I hear what you're saying, like, if we had
Mhm.
volunteers do it.
Fred, we can't, it's union work.
even if you didn't, right, we've already budgeted the dollars for the people to do it. Do we need? You know. Okay. Can we go to the big lots of nurseries rather than the Cadillacs? I don't know, that's. We're gonna have to get into some of those things because I think
Yeah, and I'm trying to
there are,
facilitate me so we keep moving,
Yep,
and
yep,
get
yep,
time
yep.
and give you guys a chance to kind of ask these questions in a way that by the end of the evening, we have a clear direction.
So John,
where we're going.
what I got a little bit was, you'd rather have, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but you'd rather have full-time FTE people on board than
some of the
than
projects.
some
right,
of the
even-
half-timers, part-timers that we're getting, the summer school folks,
Mhm.
where the full-time folks are costing us benefits. And that package that is many percentages more throughout the year versus the part-timers, that's.
I think I'm trying to say that I'd rather us have people to work on the things that we need to work rather than replace some vehicles that maybe get replaced every 4 years or other projects we may be saying have to be done right now. I don't have anything directly off, and I think we would all have different priorities on what we would do to get there and how many of what might be something different than what you or council member Kane or any of the others may have, right? When we get to the other part where he had the things that they didn't fund, right? Maybe somebody wants to see an additional police house. Right, because response times aren't what somebody wants. There are just things, these are people
Speaking of that.
rather than,
Where are we with our staffing? How many do we still?
You
have?
came to Rotary today, you'd know the answer to
But I
this
didn't, I
question.
had other commitments.
We-
17
we
year
are-
anniversary of one of my employees that I needed.
We have 3 open positions right now, and we have 2 in background checks.
But how many do we have in training at this point that are ready to come out or will be ready to come out in the field in the
I
next
think
6 months?
that's, you'd have to test the chief where we've got people at the academy and we got people in field training. So the situation is getting continually better. And we have 3 unfilled positions right now and 2 of them are in background check right now.
But those are already funded. Those are not
Correct.
additional.
That is correct.
That's not.
We have
So I know with the chief's not wanting to fall behind again. I understand that
Yeah,
in his thinking, his process.
I'm pretty comfortable with waiting to mid-year review with high, because he's got 3 open positions right now. And then he's still got 1 more to hire, and realistically, even if that was the top priority at the mid-year review, it's not gonna be 2, it's probably gonna be 1.
for additional costs.
Additional costs.
Yeah,
This is the dollars and cents, it's,
Yeah.
they're expensive, they're
Yeah.
almost $500,000. You gotta, they come with utility belts and things and uniforms and benefit.
Brings up another question I have. That's completely unfair. There was a bunch of different places with dollars for corporate logo wear. What is our policy, right? Like, it's not cutting in, every employee got $50 a year. It was administered through footprints.
Well, we have some in contracts.
Okay.
Some were
So
bound by-
maybe we can't change, right?
Some Public Works, Teamsters and Guild, we have bound by contracts. We have some
Boots
policy.
I saw boots too. Those weren't as big as some of the
Yeah.
corporate wear line items.
For our
We
non.
have like a brand, maybe City of Portrait logo brand.
Yeah, I mean, but I think the GL says.
Yeah.
Corporate
So
wear.
Nick's team that works out in the field, we provide polo shirts, or shirt logo wear so that they're identifiable out there. Manoa's finance team, they get a shirt a year, and each manager manages those dollars. You know, we buy them something, what, you know, whether it be a polo or whatever they want.
Yeah, and to give some back history on that,
But it's not across the board the same for everybody.
No, because you get
I noticed
contracts.
the difference is, okay,
It's in contracts for the union folks.
yeah, that's what the policy for the non-reps, what we allow. It's not a significant dollar amount. And the backstory is we were a couple of years ago.
Branded
Branded apparel, yeah. Trying to up our game, if you will. As we're a growing city, we want to represent ourselves well. We want to have nice branded vehicles. That when a public works employee shows up, he shows up in a vehicle, branded by the city, that they know it's.
yeah, I'm not against it, I just, it wasn't uniform across the board, I was
And
curious.
you're right, because
yeah.
some of it is union contracts and it's folks that are out in the field have a bigger need than somebody sitting here in the office. You know,
But we want people not just to feel,
And I do too, yeah, I
You
think
know,
everybody should have the
that
same,
value.
but that's why.
yeah,
yeah.
it's tax dollars though too. You know, so that person that has to wear that logo wear out in the field every day, I can't have him have one shirt. Or him or her have one shirt, okay? The person that wears it on casual Friday. That works here in the office, we're providing them something, but we're not providing them the same amount that that person that's out in the field every day. You know, representing us out in the field.
So that not in the personnel policy, so if your recommendation that we revisit the personnel policy at non-represented apparel, we could do that.
This is the
Yeah, and maybe it's something we couldn't negotiate out of the contract, I just,
Not all.
private and
contracts-
public are not exactly the same, I have to hear the mayor in my ear all the time, right? Like,
Yeah.
I would just, everybody gets the same in my work, so.
No, yeah, it's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cops will tell you they're special.
I would just comment that I would actually.
Not touching that.
support the two things on this list, because I believe that staff should have the latest software and tools. So I could see Civic Plus's website and the software. So I would personally support this.
What were you talking about?
The software.
The top two?
Yeah.
The website?
Software. And the budget software.
Well, they are in the mid-year review. We, you know,
And I like that they're split, so they're not all from the general fund.
Yeah.
I'm
not saying, we weren't saying no to it. It's just that we've got to have.
I know, I'm just
money to pay
commenting
for
that
it.
that's something that I would
Okay.
push for.
Civic Plus is on there twice, too.
What
it's
is?
two different products.
Yeah,
One,
okay.
yeah, one's the Civic Plus website, and then they have a kind of sister product for the Simply Fixed.
Yeah.
And there might be another solution for the seat, besides talking about Public Works, through our Tyler platform, there's another module that accomplishes the same thing, so. There might be some.
Does Public Works want our own software? Do they not like SequaClicks or?
They don't, because,
They think
because
it's
Too late. So I interacted with Chris, he's our supervisor now, because I had reported a stoplight out in front of Lowe's. On a Saturday. I think he reached out to me. Wednesday? And he was like, looks like you did this, yeah, that was this weekend, is it fixed? I said, yeah, it's long fixed, right? Like, I told him, I said, I was trying to do what the average person should do instead of picking up the phone and calling, yeah, I was not trying to.
Test it.
Yeah, and just,
so the county, the things that are. Something like that after hours, I would call 911 non-emergency, and then they'll dispatch somebody else, but.
I didn't know how.
So the process is, so that's something coming in, the county public works staff gets that Monday morning, and they've got them throughout the county, and they're, this one's Port Orchard, so maybe on Tuesday.
They finally got it over to
Tuesday
him.
or
and
Wednesday,
he got-
so this, so that's the challenge, is it's taking a day or two to get to us.
Which I think by and large, I would guess most of the stuff being reported to us is not as urgent as a stoplight out, so.
Yeah.
Is it worth? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't like studies.
It is
ever.
a trade-off.
If I would have any study out
Yeah.
to fund a person, but I also understand sometimes they are needed, but some of them are exorbitant. Price.
Don't disagree.
I mean.
I understand, I hear you, we all want more.
Yeah. I'd rather you give me a list of every sidewalk in the city and I'll go walk it. And then you guys keep your $75,000
This saves us.
And have an employee, but I know that that's not necessarily
I could see
And
that. That's what I was
like I
saying.
said, like the tougher decisions are, we go back to that income statement. The trajectory of expenses against revenues. Every time I have an employee, you're gonna widen that pie chart really quickly. Again, maybe not following this current biennial budget, but 27, 28. We always committed to not put ourselves in a position to have to fire or lay off people. So we'd rather pause, take a little more time, let it kind of develop and marinate. And then, do what we can with short-term solutions that are just like, the seasonal. Let's add some more seasonals, because many people in there, they get the parks bumped up as possible. You know, for,
You know, it's tough, especially when I'm trying to compare, it. Not everybody's exactly the same, right? We have 2 parks employees, Holsbo's how much smaller than us and has 6 full-time FTE in their department, right? So,
But they have,
and they have,
a park lobby?
they have a parks levy though?
they have,
Okay.
they do now, they haven't long time, but yes, yes.
Yeah.
It could be, right? So
And
again,
and to be an
these are
outside.
things that we have to have
Yeah.
a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, if, like, this would be a good council poll to go, like, we would like to see more, so we would like you to look at revenues to raise to get that done.
Maybe.
So we say, we can talk about being out taxes. We can't, it is.
We may not adopt it, but we can talk about it.
It's actually too busy.
It may have to be that that's what we talked about, if we
Yeah.
have to get
I
Or
can see
park
to
talking
get
about
to the
it.
things we want to,
So, and
right,
so-
that people understand what that.
We were this close to running a ballot measure for parks levy,
Mhm.
but we did a survey
We found out that
that
it
the
wouldn't be a
community,
wise move.
the community didn't think that was our biggest need. The crime and traffic were the 2 highest priorities, and that's why we passed, instead of going
Mhm.
pursuing it, because there's only so much the community is gonna support. So we passed the 1/10 measure for Bethel, and as we get to a final design, we could be going to the voters, because we don't know what the cost of that project is. We could be going to the voters to ask for the second 1/10 to get us to the finish line. on that project. We don't know. The back to Noah is, we don't need any more new projects, we need to finish the
Oh,
one.
well, I'm
that we
I'm
got.
with him.
Yeah,
Uh,
finish the ones we're at.
We
We're
can
And I'm
just
gonna ask
barely
you
afford
tonight,
the ones.
I'm just curious, like
Now
2 years
Jason.
ago, what was our basic balance like? Like, what was our opening?
I think.
Why are our revenues 6,000 over, or not
Here.
6,000 over?
Here.
revenue?
Somebody.
And was that way 2 years ago?
I asked you about the-
What is the
So here's my only caveat about comparing these. Every biennial
It was
budget
worse 2 years
is
ago.
very different. Every biennial budget is very different. Depending on what we are working on, what we're focused on, so it's hard to tell the story of the prior biennial period, especially from when you start the biennial period, where you end the biennial period. But as you guys will experience, we're gonna start with the biennial budget, but by the time we get to the end of 2026, the budget's going to look different. We've had this conversation before about projects and things. So the story isn't always easy to pull out from just numbers and comparison. But what I can tell you, we began the 23-24 biennium with 14 million. We budgeted to end with 2.6 million. So again, we budgeted to spend our cash down to cover one-time expenses.
So that helps
stuff.
explain what I was talking about with the money that we carry over, right? So that's why we budgeted to be at 2.6. This is his allocation in a balance sheet saying that I still have money to pay for the marine lift station over here, right? That's why we start higher than what we had.
not a good example, because it doesn't come out of that fund.
No, but same basic, right?
Yeah, it's not that clear. So we're in the 23-24 budget, but the last time this was amended fully, probably not 9 months ago. So 9 months ago, we amended the budget for some reason, say we needed to add a significant contract.
We did big budget amendment now this summer.
Yeah, well, we did.
Where you
Whenever we did the
did
last.
a bunch of them all
Yeah.
together. Mhm.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
there's a period of time where we said, okay, here's where we think the picture looks like. Now we're further along. Now we've trued up some stuff and go, okay. Now we think it's really going like this because we didn't get the projects.
But that,
Right, the spending didn't happen as it.
Yeah.
We anticipated. There were delays here and there.
but that's based, yeah.
Yeah,
But
your fault.
He's right,
Yeah.
it's wrong project to do it out of, but yes,
Similar concept.
similar concept, yeah.
It's gonna be
Right,
bad.
it is.
I'm gonna go home.
So wait, before we adjourn, because we have to adjourn the meeting again.
Oh, yeah.
So the budget is usually a recommendation of the finance committee. That's why you guys get the most time with this. So again, this is the group that we look for support, either to support the budget or be clear about what we need to do to get your support or to have facilitate discussion. So I'm gonna go to you, Fred. How you feel about the budget now? Would you support it? Is there certain things that are concerned that I can next hour try to do some research to address?
No, I need time to digest it. I think in general, I'm comfortable with it.
Okay. And that's all you need at this point, because again, we got time, another month or so, but it will go very fast. It happens every time. How about you, Mark?
What do I have to do?
Okay.
No, seriously. I feel comfortable with it. I do reserve the right to regurgitate it a little bit more. But I'm comfortable with the overall aspect, the processes, and the way it's laid out. And I would support it.
None.
Definitely feel like I know way more about what's in the sausage,
Yeah.
right? And how it's made.
Good.
I'm still gonna eat the sausage, but do I want a little bit of a different flavor? Yeah. But that's me personally. So yes, I think you've got the major structure of what we need. So yeah, there will be, I think I'm with Mark, maybe some minor tweaks here and there, but by and large, I mean, there's not a ton of what
We
we're.
presented you guys
Yeah,
a balanced
yeah,
budget,
That's-
and we've
yeah.
taken a number of things that we really wanna do.
You know,
And
like.
put them on a list for a
I
mid-year
already
review.
hear in my head, the ID and I don't see hanging baskets, right?
Well,
That conversation's gonna come up. And we're gonna have to make a decision one way or another.
And it's that parts person.
Yep.
That's truly it is, because what I'm bringing forward is the status quo. And if I have somebody down here watering baskets, that's a half a day, every day of the week. And I'm not mowing the parks. That's really what's happening.
I hear, it, right?
And
So
so,
then that's,
so if I don't have another body, then the hanging baskets aren't the expensive part, it's the body to
Yep,
water
I'm with
it.
you.
And she's gonna argue that we can be done with volunteers, and I've already talked to the merchants, they want no part of it.
I talked to their president as well.
And they said, no way, we did that once before.
The current president who's moving?
Yes,
Okay.
but I've also talked to the incoming
No,
president.
I know, it's.
And they've had a good discussion, even if she's moving, she's at least
Yeah,
good at
yeah.
having a conversation with her team.
It's a non-starter with the merchants.
Yep.
They would like them
I've-
too,
I've
but
had
they
that
want no
conversation.
part of me.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're gonna be talking about, in terms of the amount of money, a very small amount.
I agree.
I was telling you
I
now
agree.
that I think it's the discretionary amount that we're gonna have the most discussions about.
So, and that's fine. I want to encourage discussion. Also want to make sure we get through all the material.
I would say, yeah, let's
And
do
we
it
have
through
the
the,
direction at the end of the
Yeah.
meeting for me, again, as I walk away Wednesday, I have to report back next Tuesday with more material, right? I got clear direction where this council's at. And if you guys are really, if the whole council says, no, we really want that another park, we will be back with the mayor and come up with ideas to do that. It may be cutting road preservation. I'm gonna throw that as an example.
Yep.
Big dollar, 800,000. All right, this council
Lose
was like.
150 of that to go towards something
Right.
else. Yep.
Right, but I gotta have clear direction so we can kind of play with that puzzle, and make sure the whole council.
$1 million doesn't go very far paving roads, though.
What did we have last year?
$1 million.
So I think what I'm trying to say is, I'm comfortable with that. This will get us to have that conversation with the full council to give you better direction, because this is just 1 of 7, right? I can throw out all kinds of stuff, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna get the rest of them.
Yeah,
To
and
follow
I think
up
for
on.
tonight, again,
I think we cannot be cutting that road.
Yeah, I'm not advocating for that either. Yeah, no.
But
So that's why.
general fund
More money
expenditure,
this year than it did last year. We spent $1 million last year. Still wasn't enough. We can't be cutting that.
I think we have a lot to talk about.
I think so too.
so let's adjourn the meeting, we'll again talk soon, but then again tonight, if you guys can help, keep us on the track. So we don't get too far, because again, we're always constrained by time and
Yeah.
resources.
I
so
would say
we'll try.
do the more, what's the word, like the capital on the wall, the thing that you did last, do that first, because there's less discretion about it. You know, these are the things that we're doing.
it'll get punted to the next meeting. We've got to get through the actual
So-
expenditures. portion and the revenue
Is
here.
your plan to present
I'll hit it in highlight.
An
I
hour.
got it timed out.
Okay,
a similar presentation that we have
Yes,
here?
So I just keep moving along.
I don't know that the capital presentation added a ton of insight to the budget.
and it's last.
Okay, so if there's,
It's last.
on purpose,
It's on purpose.
because we can cut it if we
Because,
didn't need
well,
to.
because we can have it at the next meeting.
Correct, okay, that's what I'm trying to say is,
Yeah,
That's why it's
Move the
last.
discussion.
I think for us,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
understand that presentation better than the general council.
Yeah,
Full
so
council?
here's the outline. So Noah's gonna talk about the process and the timeline.
I was telling him, make sure.
Noah's got the
That's
revenue
not the first time
presentation,
you've
statutorily, we have to do that, okay? Then I'm gonna go into the presentation that I did. Then Noah's gonna go into the operating budget presentation, the slide deck. And that's where each one of the directors is gonna speak briefly for about their department. Okay, then, I've got income statement listed.
I
here.
got it worked in. Yeah.
So Noah's got that, and then at that point, then we can have some discussion about what's in the budget, what people wanna see in the budget. And we could take up the rest of the night with that,
Yeah.
and if it doesn't, then, cause remember, we got more time with this budget too. Then if it doesn't, then we've got the capital piece that we could do tonight or do next week.
I think you end up.
Yeah.
That's my question.
That's okay. I mean, if we just really focus on the operating side and get agreement on the operating side. I mean, the capital budget is.
It's what it
It's
is. It is what it is. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
It's big dollars, that's why I always
That's
want to
just
spend time on it. It's
if you
50 million,
Yeah.
but it is kind of our projects and they're going.
And
I'm
it's
sorry.
not gonna have much of.
You can't unless you.
You can't unless you
Right.
don't do a project.
Yeah, that money can be spent on.
Okay.
Money is restricted.
Okay,
Good point.
so it's 5:29 and we are
Adjourn?
adjourning the finance committee meeting for October 15th, 2024. See everybody in about an hour.
Thank you.
Recording?